Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto joined Anbu after the war. Naruto Uzumaki is one of the strongest ninja in the world today. But everyone has their limits. Can he survive Anbu or will it defeat him first? Find out here. Welcome aboard. Lesson 1. Every fire casts a shadow, even those forged by will. Raindrops ran through his hair, soaked through his clothes, and flowed around petals and marble. The memorial stone was larger than it had been before, a smooth obelisk reaching towards the sky with all of the names inscribed in its care. Naruto Uzumaki, the 18-year-old, eyed the inscribed names of all those that had been lost in the war that made him a hero. His eyes hung heavy from lack of sleep but nevertheless preferred the rainy night to another restless in bed. People didn't understand, especially not the civilians who have never seen a battlefield in their life or the older ninjas who were used to too many. The blame people placed on Naruto's shoulders for letting an S-class criminal escape followed him like an unwanted ghost. Naruto had vowed to kill Sasuke, if it came to that. But when he finally had Sasuke's life in his hands, mercy was a stronger sword. Naruto occasionally wondered what happened to Sasuke after Madara interrupted the fight. Did Sasuke escape the battlefield of war or did he die, his body unidentifiable, like so many others? Sasuke's name would never be among those immortalized in stone, simply a name among Naruto's fading memories. Drenched by rain, his clothing began to sag on him like training weights. Naruto stood with his eyes closed, letting the water beat upon his head. He would eventually have to drag his corpse back to bed, wake up, and then put on the smiles and grins carved into a careful mask. It was a mask Naruto had carved for himself such a long time ago. It was dusty and cracked and dirty but well-worn. A mask was nothing new to Naruto Uzumaki. What do you want? Naruto's voice echoed through the raindrops. With the Kyuubi finally under his control, every scent filled his nostrils in a complex pattern as intense as the Inuzuka's. His ears caught every fleeting sound in the night, his eyes were no Hyuga but objects appeared sharper and clearer than before. He didn't need to use chakra to know he was being watched by shadows. An Anbu boar mask flickered beside him, out of the bushes. The Anbu agent was hardly impressed by Naruto. The title of war hero shouldn't be bestowed upon some kid who couldn't get the job done when it needed to be done. Boar had lived through a real war and knew one thing for certain, that the Four Shinobi War had been a sham, just like its young war hero. The Hokage summons you. In the middle of the night? Naruto questioned. The night ached and called him to a bed he did not want to go to. The Hokage suggests you leave a shadow clone behind. Those words set Naruto's mind racing. Was the village under threat of attack? Was there another terrorist organization hunting him down? Or was Granny just drunk again? In seconds a shadow clone was casually walking back home and Naruto, under a suggested henge, ran the newly constructed rooftops of Konoha. Drawing on the Kyuubi's chakra, Naruto easily left the Anbu agent behind. The rain evaporated before it touched his skin. He crashed through the Hokage's window, came to a stop by leaving a dent in the walls, and slammed his hands on the desk so hard, it cracked. Who's attacking? Naruto demanded. Tsunade rubbed her temples with a huge sigh as she observed the destruction Naruto wrought in only seconds of being her office, and he was dripping water on the carpet. When I call for a secret meeting, I mean it to be a secret. Tsunade yelled at her young hopefully soon-to-be successor. How is it supposed to be a secret with a mysterious hole in my office window? Oh, but Naruto felt relieved. The village wasn't in danger. He visibly relaxed. I can fix it? Naruto suggested. Please no, Tsunade said so fast she practically ran over Naruto's sentence. I'll just tell the elders I had to throw someone out of the window. A sudden gust of wind swept through, blowing rain and cold into the room. Tsunade's mood got even worse and she swore it would be Naruto she throws out of the window to further validate her excuse. With the rain, cold, and the deep night, Tsunade decided to abandon protocols and poured herself a shot of sake. She opened a drawer and filled the small shot glass she always had handy on her desk. She drank deeply, trying to regain her sanity as she faced Naruto. You haven't requested any missions since the war ended. Naruto's eyebrows bunched together in confusion. You sent for me in the middle of the night just to ask why I've stopped taking missions? So, this is about a mission then? No. I'm asking why you haven't requested a mission? Tsunade asked as she looked over at the blonde who avoided her eyes. She knew better than anyone that Naruto earned a few months' rest, but she had never anticipated it would take this long for him to bounce back. Tsunade was afraid she already knew the answer, had been suspecting it when Sakura complained how some days Naruto won't even come out of his apartment. Naruto shrugged his shoulders with a nonchalant expression, as if it meant nothing. I feel lost. Lost? Madara is gone. Sasuke is gone. There's nothing for me to do. When you've saved the world, the old mission routine wasn't enough to excite him out of bed anymore. His feet seemed to wander around Konoha without a purpose, searching or seeking something he did not yet know. An Anbu mask was placed upon the desk. Tsunade would have rather given Naruto an office job and a load of paperwork, but as a war hero, that was nigh near impossible now. Sometimes what kept enemy villages in line was the ninja, you had to keep them there. The war has ended, but our battles have not, Tsunade said in an exhausted voice. Every hidden village is weaker than we were before. We've all lost good ninja and have used valuable resources. In the wake of our weakness, crime has escalated, new hidden villages have been established in the power vacuum, and the world is on the brink of another war than we have ever been before. I'm sorry Naruto, but Konoha has need of you. So, a mission? Naruto questioned, looking at the mask quizzically. I wish it was only that. Tsunade picked up the Anbu mask and held it aloft. This is yours, if you accept it. Naruto eyes lit with a spark. Do I get a cool sword and tattoo too? This isn't a game, Naruto. This is the next best step for you and the village, the Hokage reprimanded. The truth of the matter, Naruto needed more experience before he could become Hokage, as proven when he allowed Sasuke to escape. Anbu are ninja who protect the village from the shadows. They are given the toughest jobs so that our village can thrive in peace. This is a huge responsibility and one that has to be taken seriously. I will. Naruto jumped up and down. He had always wondered what it would be like to be a part of the enigmatic Anbu unit. He never thought he'd actually be one. After all, he was technically still a genin and Anbu was by invitation only. Even some of the best and most talented jounin were not cut out to be Anbu. The Hokage knew that. It took a special kind of person. If you decide to put this on, you can no longer be the loud, hard-headed ninja everyone knows you to be. You will be shadow, you will be silence, you will be death. But most importantly, you will no longer be Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto nodded eagerly, barely listening. It was a new challenge to strive for, something exciting, just the thing to get him out of bed in the morning. The Anbu are protected by secrecy, and because of this, the decision must be made here, tonight. What is your answer? Naruto picked up the mask and weighed it in his hands. Why a dog? Wouldn't a fox have been better? The QB inside him grimaced just looking at it. Too obvious and already taken. A frog? That's your summoning contract, too obvious. Tsunade was rubbing her temples again. It's Kakashi's old mask when he was in Anbu. I don't think it's a good idea. Naruto asked. Even though taking on Kakashi's mask would have been cool, Naruto decided to save himself the heartburn and indigestion the QB could cause. And why not? Tsunade snapped, eyeing him for an explanation. Naruto scratched the back of his head and admitted, the fox isn't a fan of dogs. Sometimes it's easier to give him the little concessions so he won't bother me as much. Tsunade raised an eyebrow but did not reply. If anyone knew the nine-tailed demon, it was his host. Well, do you have a better idea? Naruto was surprised that he did. What was? Naruto paused. Uchiha Itachi's mask? Maybe Naruto asked because Itachi had left an impression on him after helping Naruto defeat Madara in the war, or maybe it was to let the legacy of the Uchiha clan live on in some small form. Maybe it was for Sasuke. In either case, it seemed like a good idea at the time. Tsunade bit her lip in thought. Itachi's mask has been passed between the Uchihas all throughout Anbu history, but the Uchihas were no more and no one dared to pick it up. Tsunade herself never dared to give it to anyone, just in case that unlikely person happened to come across Sasuke in a mission. Naruto was another matter. I believe that will work. Tsunade turned to the boar Anbu standing rigid in the corner of the room. Bring me the crow. He returned in seconds with the mask and an Anbu uniform. Tsunade handed over the mask. Naruto Uzumaki, do you accept this mask and in turn accept the responsibilities of the Anbu to know shadows when the rest of the world knows light? Naruto's heart was pounding and hadn't felt like this since his academy graduation. Without hesitation, I accept. He took a hold of the mask. So, am I Anbu now? No. Oh, Naruto scratched his head confused. You have accepted ANBU, but ANBU hasn't accepted you. You must prove yourself and complete a mission before you are fully initiated. If you succeed, you will receive your sword and tattoo and become a full-fledged member. If you fail, Yamanaka will erase your memory and this night will have never happened. A mission? That's all? Naruto grinned. He defeated Madara and Pain, this should be easy. I'll be back before you can eat a cup of ramen. Tsunade pulled out the folder and placed the mission briefing on her desk. Somehow, the folder hit the desk louder than the rain thundering just outside. Naruto's eyes widened and his face paled. Beads of sweat began to run from his forehead. He looked close to fainting. All his arrogance evaporated into air. The Kyuubi began a low chuckle and then outright laughed. It was an assassination contract. What did he do? Naruto asked thickly. He wiped the sweat from his palms onto his pants. I can't tell you that. I mean, it must have been something really bad, right? Naruto asked, his eyes begging. Naruto has never attacked someone unless he was being attacked first, and Naruto always tried his utmost hardest to take his enemies alive, although not always. Sometimes there's Yura. Is this because I let Sasuke live? It has nothing to do with Sasuke, Tsunade replied sternly, although it had everything to do with the incident surrounding it. A ninja can't be a ninja if they can't kill. ANBU can't be ANBU if they can't kill on order. Naruto didn't believe her. It was mercy. There is no room for mercy in ANBU. You have a week starting now. Either you carry out the mission or not. Either you succeed or you don't. Tsunade hoped Naruto failed, the Hokage hoped he would succeed. Now, put on your mask, take the folder, and do your mission, Crow. Naruto snatched the folder and clothes from her desk angrily. He made another hole as he jumped out of the window and disappeared into the rain. Tsunade could only rub her temples. What do you think, Boar? She asked the man observing from the shadows. He shook his head. Uzumaki's too emotional. I cannot imagine him ever wearing a mask. Naruto was so angry he passed his house and went straight for the forest that lay beyond the walls of Konoha. He didn't stop until his foot slipped on a branch and he went tumbling down. He could have caught himself but didn't. Rain poured on him as he looked up at the cloudy sky. His fingers scratched through the mud as he lay there. His mask had fallen to the side. Naruto wasn't stupid. Beyond being the Hokage's minions, ANBU were assassins, but it hadn't been something Naruto wanted to think about at the time. He didn't want to voice his doubts, even though he had plenty. He was the hero, the one everyone came to with their problems. He was supposed to accept the task without hesitation. His doubts, his fears, his insecurities did not matter. He picked up the ANBU mask, dark blue lines leading from the middle of the eyes as if it was crying. It was dusty and cracked and dirty but well-worn. He fitted the mask onto his face and it melted into the contours of his skin. A mask was nothing new to Naruto Uzumaki. Lesson 2. A ninja equips at least one kunai and a large bag of distrust. Naruto Uzumaki sped through the trees so fast he was merely a gust of wind. Then his ears caught the sound of battle and the trees bowed when he stopped. A blood-curdling scream echoed through the forest, dying in tatters among the branches. Without hesitation, disregarding any concern about his current mission, Naruto raced to the battle site. He reached a winding dirt road where the scene unfolded like the climax of a movie. A cloud ninja stood on stick legs, which were threatening to break at any moment as he looked up at his attackers. With one hand, he held his blood-soaked shoulder. The other hand was held to his chest, fingers crippled and marred by fire. Two rogue ninjas encroached closer, but careful. One had his eyes gouged out. The other, a heavy wound against his rib. They still pushed forward, aware of their tasteless victory soon at hand. The dead lay on both sides. One of the rogue ninja attacked, but found his kunai deflected. He looked up and a shiver of fear ran through his spine as he stared at the bone-white mask of Konoha's nefarious ANBU. The rogue ninjas didn't know what hit them when they were struck from behind. Their bodies hit the ground at the same time. Two shadow clones disappeared in a puff of smoke, a seeming illusion, like shadows never truly there. With the rogue ninjas unconscious, Naruto turned to help the cloud ninja but found him collapsed on the ground. With a quick check of the pulse, Naruto was relieved to discover the pale blonde-haired ninja was still alive, but wouldn't be for long. With a heavy sigh, he made more clones for cleanup duty and pulled the Cloud Ninja onto his back. Naruto couldn't just leave the ninja to die. After all, he had a week for his mission. It shouldn't take him long to make a quick visit to Kumo before turning back towards Rice Country where his target waited for him. Maybe this was a sign. Maybe he wasn't meant to complete his mission after all. Naruto was no medic nin and rightfully worried about the wounds the ninja clinging to his back was suffering. Naruto had paused and managed crude bindings to stifle the blood loss, but nevertheless, he hurried to Kumo to find help. In the distance, above the forest canopy, Naruto could see the distant mountains rising high into the sky and touching the clouds. The sun glinted off a flash of metal. Naruto reacted instinctively and with a sudden evasive twist, the kunai barely nicked his neck. But he didn't see the tree. Naruto crashed into the wooden bark with a groan, and at the speed he had been moving, crashed through the trunk and left a man-sized indent in next tree he hit. He slid down with bark and splinters embedded in his skin. He dropped his quarry but caught his feet and managed to land with some saving grace. I should have known Konoha was behind this, the Cloud Ninja barked with fevered eyes, who twisted through a blanket of leaves until he rolled back against a tree and held his kunai, wavering, in an attempt to try and protect himself. Naruto knew even a civilian could get through that unstable defense. What? Naruto asked confused. Konoha and Kumo are allies. Naruto felt a little saddened by the look of distrust he received. What was worse, he couldn't even give a comforting smile or assure the ninja that he knew the Raikage personally or that would give his identity away. And even though Naruto wasn't yet a full-fledged Anbu, he was sure that giving away your identity was not allowed. Look, I was passing by and it looked like you needed help. I was taking you to Kumo. And why should I believe a Konoha dog? Even though Kumo and Konoha had fought a war beside each other, every ninja knew that allies were today, and enemies tomorrow. In the ninja world, all too often alliances only mattered in politics, but the sharp end of a kunai on an open field. Because Naruto found himself at a loss. Look, Naruto pulled out a scroll and the ninja instinctively prepared a hand signal. Then his shoulders slumped at the uselessness of the marred burnt fingers of his right hand. Naruto presented the scroll. The bodies of your dead are in here. The Cloud Ninja looked stunned for a moment and then suspicion marred his face. Why would a Konoha ninja do something like that? Because we're allies. Naruto said in exasperation. I'm no Raikage, but if you get on my back, I can have you home in no time. Just trust me. The Cloud Ninja didn't, but he didn't have a choice. His team had been tracking a band of rogue ninja that had been sabotaging and stealing from weapon production centers all throughout the Land of Lightning and in the process stole a highly classified item. When he and his comrades finally tracked them to a small country bordering the Land of Fire, the rogue ninja somehow managed to get the ambush on his team instead. Now the Cloud Ninja was stuck here, with a Leaf Ninja who should have killed him by now and who he suspected was sent to cover up the Leaf's village involvement with the rogues. If only his chakra system hadn't been poisoned, then he could use his healing techniques. That's what he hated about being a medic, always in the back line of the formation, always the last one to die. The Cloud Ninja slumped back against the tree with a heavy breath. Fine, but I only require you to take me to the border. There are patrols that will sense us the moment we cross. Once I am there, I will no longer need your assistance. That last word had to be pulled from gritted teeth. Alright then, up we go. Naruto grabbed the Cloud Ninja's arm and pulled him none too gently over his back. Sorry. Stupid Leaf Ninja. When Naruto began to speed through the trees, the Cloud Ninja blinked in surprise, but quickly abandoned the thought as a symptom of his blood loss. After all, no one, especially not any Leaf Ninja, could be faster than the Raikage. The two ninja from different villages sat on opposite sides of the fire. The flame reflected the light off the Anbu's mask, the two streaks of blue subtly lost in the darkness. On the other side, the crackling reflected off the Cloud Ninja's Hittite and in various instances did not know which red was blood or the flames. Hungry? Naruto suggested and shoved a bowl into the Cloud Ninja's hands. The steam brushed against the Cloud Ninja's face. It looked too good to be true. With a distrustful gaze, you poisoned it. What? Why would I do that? I just carried you on my back for 2 days. Naruto's disbelief echoed through the mask. Then you eat it first, the Cloud Ninja dared. But I have a mask on. Naruto huffed and watched as the Cloud Ninja dropped the food Naruto had spent all night cooking into the grass. Only dogs hide behind masks. The Cloud Ninja spat a wad of blood, rubbing salt in the wound, as it landed in the lump of wasted ramen. Naruto sighed deeply and was actually glad for the mask, because he was about to cry. That had been the only cup of ramen he had left in his food scroll. He hadn't had time to stock up before the mission. And aren't you guys supposed to be more enigmatic? The Cloud Ninja sneered. Konoha's shadows were obviously a joke judging by this one. The rumors that said no one saw an Anbu and lived to tell the tale were obviously wrong. But the Cloud Ninja couldn't help but wonder why he hadn't been killed yet. His condition made it too easy for the Leaf Ninja to erase his existence. Maybe the ninja was mining for information? Maybe he was sadistic and just giving him a thread of hope only to yank it away at the last minute? Maybe he was looking for a way into Cloud? If the Anbu agent was trying to frustrate him to death, he certainly was succeeding. Naruto chuckled and scratched the back of his head. Yeah, I'm sort of new at this. The Cloud Ninja snorted and couldn't imagine how this ninja managed to live for very long. He collapsed backwards against the root of a tree and tried to keep one eye open on his enemy. His breathing was labored as the chakra-crippling poison crawled through his blood. Eventually, his eyes closed. There was a flickering thought that wondered perhaps it wouldn't be so bad if he never opened his eyes and died here. At least he wouldn't have to go home and face the loved ones of his fallen comrades. The Kumo ninja breathed a sigh of relief when they finally crossed the Kumo border. Just put me down here, they'll come. Naruto nodded and sat the ninja down against a cliff of rocks, which was just several out of the various mountains that dotted the landscape. You can go now. They'll find me. But how do you know? What if they don't come? I might have to take you all the way to Kumobikure. No, you won't. As far as the Cloud Ninja was concerned, this is as far as the Leaf Ninja will go inside of his country. Naruto chuckled. Fine, but I'll just stay here and make sure you're safe. The Cloud Ninja realized this one was a lost cause. Are all Leaf Ninja as insane as you are? The Crow Mask tilted. I guess not. The Cloud Ninja sat back, just as confused as when they first met. It's C, by the way. I know, Naruto smirked, but it could not be seen from behind the mask. I saw you from time to time during the war. C raised an eyebrow. Do I know you? Probably not, was just another soldier. Naruto shrugged and hoped it was convincing enough. I guess my name would be Crow. C scoffed. As if I couldn't figure that out from the mask. Truthfully, C had hoped his name would strike fear and apprehension in his nonchalant opponent. But the Leaf Ninja was unfazed. Are you sure your friends are coming? Naruto asked. Of course, they're coming, C snapped. You know, Naruto shuffled his feet against the fallen grass. During the war we all fought under the same symbol. Not anymore. Those words echoed through the emptiness of the winding mountain road, against all the obstacles that as Hokage, Naruto hoped to someday overcome. Situations like this reminded Naruto that finding peace for the ninja world was an idealism that clashed violently with a brutal dose of reality. We're all the same really. You, me, those rogue ninja, we're all just human beings. C laughed and was beginning to think the whole point of the Leaf Ninja's presence was that even Konoha was trying to get rid of him. Kid, I think they gave you the wrong mask. It should have been a donkey. C doubted the ninja even caught the insult. You know nothing of the world. It is ugly and dark and evil. Naruto knew of ugly, dark, and evil. It resided in his stomach. It was the hateful looks of his childhood, the random beatings in between alleyways, it was starvation as people passed him uncaring. Naruto was no stranger to darkness. For most of his childhood everyone thought of him as the embodiment of true evil, never truly seeing him, never giving him a chance. Was it wrong to want to give people a chance? Naruto shook his head. You're wrong. C laughed, he couldn't help it. You don't quit, do you? Are you seriously going to talk me to death? Naruto wished C could see his smile behind his mask. It's what I do, besides, it's boring around here. Naruto didn't move when a group of patrol ninja appeared above them from a myriad of rocks, kunai poised and hand seals prepared. At first glance, all they saw was a hurt comrade and an enemy ninja. Risking a war, they attacked and a storm of kunai fell from the sky. Naruto moved so fast it seemed he hadn't moved at all as kunai harmlessly flew past. A streak of lightning sailed barely past his cheek. The cloak that surrounded Naruto was a flash of red before it flickered away. Surprised by the ANBU's skill, the Cloud Ninjas froze long enough to hear their injured comrade. Wait, stop, Seed coughed out. He's helping me. The ninjas looked at each other confused and then stared back at the uniform of the notorious elite of Konoha. Yeah, what he said, Naruto yelled out. Stop throwing things at me and hurry and get him a medic. He's badly hurt. Don't move, the leader of the patrol ninja demanded. One ninja jumped from the rocks and his hands glowed green as he knelt down to heal Seed. He finally felt as if he was going to survive this. He might just make it home to his sister and girlfriend, the only thought that kept him breathing. Let him go, Seed coughed, he's not coming any farther. Seed gave the leaf ninja a warning glare. Naruto nodded and watched as the medic ninja did what he could without facilities. Finished, the allied ninja helped Seed up against his shoulder and they jumped onto a branch. Oh wait, Naruto cried, forgetting the scroll. He quickly tried to get it from his bag. In retrospect, moving so quickly perhaps wasn't Naruto's best idea. In alarm, the ninjas attacked. This time the streak of lightning did hit. Naruto popped into a cloud of smoke. A scroll fell unharmed to the ground. One of the ninja neared the scroll carefully and inspected it. It's just a regular storage scroll. We'll open it when we get home. It might be rigged, best to have someone look at it first, the patrol leader decided. Go and contact the other patrol squads. Make sure he didn't cross the border. The squad leader turned to C. Did you find the sword? No, C admitted his failure. When they couldn't find any sign of the leaf ninja, C couldn't help but to ask, do you think he was really trying to help me out? His comrades scoffed, we're ninjas. Naruto Uzumaki was already halfway to Rice Country. Naruto arrived in the small town of Juhikura one day before the allotted time came to an end. He could have been in the sleeping village much sooner, but Naruto might have, maybe, perhaps dawdled on his way here. He landed on a tree branch just outside the village. The stars twinkled in the clear night sky. Naruto's first step was intel. He created 10 clones, hinged them as small animals, and sent them scurrying into the village. The real Naruto sat back against a tree and watched the dawn rise as his eyelids grew heavy. The sun rose, as it always did, but with the mask the warmth could not reach his skin. Naruto jerked awake when a grumpy housewife smashed his rat hinge with a broom. Naruto made a mental note not to knock on her door early in the morning. He mentally processed all the information he gathered during the night and instantly knew the exact location of his target. Naruto stretched awake, and then in a swift movement a kunai flew from his fingers. It shot through leaves until it was deflected with a twinge of metal. Naruto frowned when an Anbu appeared from the foliage with open hands and portrayed his leaf sigil. Raccoon mask. Naruto should have guessed they'd send someone to watch him. With a shrug, Naruto ignored the unwanted companion, leapt from the branch, and went to observe his target. From what Naruto could tell Yamamoto Kaneshiro, his target was a rice farmer, and looked like an ordinary rice farmer at that. Naruto observed the man at work, when he ate, who he talked to, and when he slept. As every hour passed, a heavy stone dropped into Naruto's stomach and built a pyramid until he was choking on them. He didn't want to do this anymore. This man was just a rice farmer. He wasn't hurting anyone. He wasn't plotting anything. He wasn't even a ninja. There had to be something, Naruto tried to convince himself. The sun was setting and his last day was coming to an end. Still, Naruto's morals were as restless as the wind. He decided to try a different tactic. He hinged himself as one of the villagers, a robust man that he had seen Kaneshiro talking to that morning. Maybe if Naruto was someone familiar, he could get Kaneshiro to admit to his wrongdoings, whatever they were. The disguised Naruto circled the house, knowing Kaneshiro was already out back. He found Kaneshiro bent over a well, trying to pull up a bucket of water. He was struggling as water toppled over the side. There was no way this man was a ninja. Oi! Naruto greeted and realized too late that perhaps his voice had been too high and too loud for the person he was portraying. Kaneshiro jerked up in shock, his foot slipped, and his head hit against stone before falling into the well. You killed him and then took him to the local clinic? Tsunade questioned as she looked over the report one more time. She was honestly at a complete loss on how to interpret it. Naruto didn't know what to say. You have a lot of high and low marks. But I didn't do anything, Naruto said, exasperated. He was certain when he met Tsunade in her office Yamanaka would be waiting for him. Tsunade sighed before listing the comments. You were sent off with only the weapons you had on your clothes. You didn't make any extra stops, even for extra preparations at your house. Graded positive. Stopping could have potentially jeopardized the mission and your identity. Naruto tilted his head in disbelief. Found your target within hours of arriving to the village without the village being aware of your presence. Positive. Noticed the presence of your exam proctor, Raccoon, who is one of the stealthiest members of ANBU. Double positive. Used only 2 jutsu for the entire mission. Positive. Showcased creative use for said jutsu. Positive. Killed target without any jutsu at all and made the death seem like a natural accident. Tsunade ticked off the last positive. It took all 7 days for you to complete your mission. Negative. Tsunade slapped the paper down and gave Naruto a glare. The proctor isn't as fast as you and eventually lost your trail, but when he finally arrived at the village you were nowhere to be found. Naruto, where were you the first 6 days? Naruto chuckled awkwardly and scratched his head. I got lost. There's a map in your holster, Tsunade said in disbelief. Those things are hard to read. Naruto gave a quizzical look to go along with the ploy, but it was unseen behind the mask. Tsunade shook her head. So, you'll have me to believe you truly did get lost? Come on, it's kind of embarrassing. You don't have to say it so loud. She waggled a finger at him. I don't believe you. I think you were stalling for time. I think you weren't going to go through with the mission. Well, it was an accident, Naruto stressed for the 4th time. I didn't mean to kill him. Hearing Naruto's distraught voice, Tsunade actually believed him. But you succeeded in your mission. I don't want to be ANBU. Naruto crossed his arms. The way he acted so childishly in his ANBU outfit was almost comical. Accident or no, you passed. It seems you might have a knack for this. That's when Naruto ripped the mask off and threw it at her. He didn't want to have a knack for killing people. That was one of his more positive traits that separated him from the Kyuubi. Tsunade stood and slammed her hands on the table in anger. Naruto. Have you stopped to consider that your abilities will be more effective in this type of work than on the open field? It may be dirty, but you can prevent people from dying. I don't see how killing a rice farmer is saving the village. Naruto snapped. Tsunade flipped the desk over and found herself pointing a finger against his chest. That rice farmer is an escaped convict, imprisoned for butchering 13 children. Naruto couldn't find his voice, and when he did all he could say was, "Oh, you killed someone, but you did good as well. Why didn't you tell me all of that?" Naruto asked, exasperated. He couldn't believe that he had been so close in letting a man like that go. He didn't look so bad. Sometimes they don't. Tsunade said, digging her finger into Naruto's chest. You are missing the point of this entire mission. Naruto ran a hand through his hair. Then what is the point? I don't see it. It's trust, Naruto. Did you really think I'd send you to kill just some rice farmer? Do you really believe I'd do something like that? Naruto shuffled his feet and eventually shook his head. No, but what if you made a mistake? What if he was innocent? Then I made the mistake, Naruto, not you. Tsunade sat back against her Hokage chair in exhaustion. I make mistakes, I admit it. But I need to be able to trust that you will carry out my orders without question, and I need you to trust me that I know what I'm doing. That is, after all, what being the Hokage is all about. Naruto couldn't believe the irony. He had been asking an allied ninja to trust him all week, and yet he couldn't even trust his own Hokage. When Tsunade tried to rest her feet against her desk, she found it annoyingly turned over. Naruto absent-mindedly upturned the desk for her. Her feet pounded onto the table. What's it going to be, Naruto? Tsunade asked. Can I trust you with the well-being of this village? Can I trust that you are going to follow my orders no matter how much they don't make sense at the time? Can I trust that you will kill when I need you to? Naruto felt a heaviness over his heart. He suddenly understood what the Cloud Ninja had been going through all week. Trust was hard. I think so. That's not good enough, Naruto. I will always protect the village. It was the best answer Naruto could give. With a great sigh that made her chest tremble, Tsunade signed the papers that proved he officially passed. Naruto Uzumaki didn't know if he could trust himself. Lesson 3. We all have demons, some darker than others. There's one final test, Tsunade said as she organized Naruto's ANBU file, and this one is highly dangerous. The words dangerous never fazed Naruto before, but after his last mission, he's realized even he has his limits. In an almost uncertain voice, do I have to kill someone again? Naruto had been hoping for some time to sort through his thoughts and priorities before facing the crumbling tower of his moralities so soon. No. Naruto sighed in relief, then he immediately lost interest. Listen to me, Tsunade snapped, trying to regain his attention. If you fail, your dreams of becoming Hokage are over, the Leaf Village will lose one of its best assets, and best shinobi. You better damn well pass. I will, I promise. Naruto added. Naruto had been forced to hand back the ANBU gear and mask. Now he stood in the Hokage's office in the pajamas he had initially wore when he came to her office a week ago. His confidence was hard to take seriously when he looked as if he was ready for bed. Tsunade went through several locks and seals on her desk to get at the ANBU handbook. She placed it on the table. This is all the rules you will have to memorize by the end of the week. You will be tested on them at your initiation. This is what's so dangerous. Naruto scoffed as he picked up the thin and ragged black handbook. Tsunade sighed, details of the initiation ceremony are all inscribed in the manual. Please tell me you'll have it all memorized by the end of the week. Naruto honestly wasn't the best at this kind of stuff. He was dead last in his academy days. But that was then, this is now. Sure, that is what shadow clones are for. Don't worry, Granny. I can handle it. I've made it this far, haven't I? Accident or not, Naruto silently replied to himself. With an absent-minded wave, he crashed through the window and headed home. Naruto smirked when he heard Tsunade screaming curses at him as he hopped the rooftops. At least it was just a window this time. Naruto walked the street towards his apartment, a rare sight to see a ninja walking, but he enjoyed the quiet streets and the moon lazily watching from above. He had thoughts to sort, but he found them too much of a jumbled mess to organize properly. As he walked, the quiet clean streets turned into ominous pathways of dirt. The village of Konoha gradually twisted and deformed into the darker areas. Cheap apartment complexes and rowdy bars lined the streets. Naruto stepped nonchalantly to the side as a man was thrown out of a second-story window. There were whores on the street corner, boys selling drugs, thieves pawning stolen items, and gangs stalking their territory. It was the part of Konoha that went ignored by the council. After all, this was a ninja village and ninjas needed some kind of escape from their harsh lives. Even after the reconstruction, Konoha fell into its same old routines. This was home to Naruto Uzumaki. His apartment building has always been in the center of this illegal wasteland. When he was younger, the Sandaime had provided for him a well-to-do apartment, but the landlady kept raising the rent, and before long Naruto had been forced onto the streets. It was only here in this district did he find cheap enough housing he could afford. By the time Sandaime realized what had happened and offered Naruto's old apartment back, Naruto had already settled in. These grimy alcohol-soaked streets had welcomed him. Naruto's friends were so easily blinded by Naruto's smiles and carefree personality that they found themselves in shock whenever they decided to visit. All of them, in subtle direction of the conversation, or in Sakura's case of outright disgust, tried to convince him to move. Naruto could have moved, had the perfect opportunity to move after the reconstruction, but sometimes it was easier to fall into old routines. Standing on the corner of the street right next to his apartment was Maiko. She had come from a ninja family, but her parents died on a mission a long time ago, leaving her an orphan and struggling to survive the orphanage system until she fled from it. Naruto knew what that felt like. It was hard enough without being considered a demon. Maiko leaned against the building wall. Skirt short, shirt low, heels high. Where you been? She asked, a cigarette between crimson lips. Mission, Naruto replied. A pause occurred in the conversation and smoke filled the air. This was the part where Maiko should have offered her services, but it hasn't worked in 8 years and it wouldn't work now. One of your ninja buddies was snooping around here. Oh, Naruto knew how uncomfortable it was for his friends to come and visit, do you know? The pink-haired bitch, Maiko interrupted. You fucking her? Naruto blushed and Maiko snickered, geez, just asking. Maiko could tell a lot by just looking at a man, and it was so easy to get the one standing before her completely red in the face. With a drag of the cigarette and a snake of smoke she added, she seemed pretty worried. Naruto knew Maiko liked to tease him, but he never got used to it. After he recovered from the embarrassed flush, he suddenly felt guilty. Usually, he told Sakura when he was leaving for a mission, but this time had been so abrupt. He would have to find a way to make it up to her. Thanks, Naruto gave her a smile, but Maiko didn't buy it. She took one look at his pajamas and the bags under his eyes. He couldn't fool her. He made his way up the stairs and coin rang on the concrete, falling at Maiko's feet. Her eyes burned a fire. I told you, Uzumaki, I don't want any of your freaking money. She yelled up the stairs. Don't you freaking pity me? Naruto was used to the yelling as he unlocked his door, undid the traps and seals, and went inside. Maiko stopped her curses when the door closed. She looked at the money at her feet. It wasn't much, but probably all the kid had. She picked it up anyways. No point in wasting it. Maiko knew she could just pick another corner, but she kept coming back. Everyone knew Naruto Uzumaki was probably the only decent guy in this neighborhood. He had taken Maiko in when she had a rough night with a client. He shared his ramen with the many orphans roaming the streets. Everyone knew Naruto was a safe haven in the night. What he didn't know is that the denizens kept tabs on him almost obsessively. He was one of them. He belonged to this place like an old routine. They all knew that being a prostitute, or drug runner, or thief was better than the life of a ninja. This neighborhood was no stranger to ninjas looking for an escape. Ninjas came with haunted eyes to drown in alcohol, or the touch of women, or the high of drugs. Their hands might be filled with money and grime, but a ninja's hands were filled with blood. All ninjas died either on the battlefield or a little bit inside until they became walking corpses. Shadows smeared the streets of Konoha. Maiko settled against the brick wall of an abandoned building with the coins nestled in the safety of her bra. She was the one who pitied him. Naruto collapsed onto his bed, his room as messy as he felt. The stocked cabinets full of instant ramen was the only evidence Sakura had stopped by. He tried to go to sleep, but the couple down the hall was arguing again. Although, that had never stopped him from falling asleep before. With a defeated sigh he pulled the pristine black book from the waistline of his pajamas and flipped it open to a page. If mortally wounded in battle, you must destroy your body at all costs to prevent enemy ninja from capturing your corpse. Below is a list of jutsu that will accomplish this task with varying degrees of intensity. Naruto quickly turned to another page. The initiation ceremony consists of several parts: recitation of the creed, review over the rules, the signing of the contract sealing your services to the Hokage, and the final test. Naruto's eyes sped through the text until he came to what he wanted to know. An Anbu agent must not only be physically strong but mentally as well. The final test is a powerful genjutsu simulation that will test your psychological capabilities under high-pressure situations. Naruto had no idea how to prepare for a test like that and could not imagine how it could be so life-threatening. Just as he was about to throw the book down, footsteps were running up the stairs outside. By the time Naruto opened the door, an ebony streak of hair crashed past his legs and stumbled onto his floor. Naruto closed the door and turned as his visitor picked himself up. Tomo wasn't an orphan, but soon he would be. His mother was critically ill and constantly in and out of Konoha's hospital. They barely had enough money to pay the expensive medical bills, so Tomo had stooped to doing errands for the local gangs. Judging by the heavy bleeding on the left side of the kid's face and the limp in his right leg, it wasn't going so well for him. You know where the bandages are, Naruto said, and decided to make some ramen. He watched from the corner of his eye as Tomo pulled the first aid kit from the cabinet. Naruto could offer to help, but he knew it was better this way. He knew what it was like to be too stubborn and too proud. Sometimes Naruto wished he could enlist Sakura's assistance, but the children didn't trust her, they trusted him. They ran to him when things were desperate. More often than not, only in silence did he receive their gratitude. The ramen was ready by the time Tomo fixed himself up. He limped over to the table where a bowl was waiting for him. Naruto was never one to eat in silence, especially when he had company. "How is your mom?" "The doctor says she's getting better." Tomo slurped his noodles loudly, "but they're wrong." Naruto could see the fear cross the boy's face, the fear that soon he would be alone. There were bigger things than his promise to Tsunade that ensured Naruto would survive his test. There were unspoken words and mutual understandings. There were unshed tears and long nights over bowls of ramen even when everyone else knew that ramen could not fix everything. Naruto couldn't leave these kids alone. For most, he was all they had. A knock came at the door. It was hard, rough, and threatening to break the door down. I didn't do it, Tomo and Naruto said quickly, at the same time. Tomo gave him a suspicious glare. I swear I have no idea who destroyed the Hokage's windows, Naruto chuckled. Tomo smiled, I swear I have no idea who stole that watch. Naruto shrugged his shoulders with a grin and walked over to his door. He opened it to reveal 4 big thugs crowded in the hallway. Where is that punk? The smallest one with a pockmarked face demanded. Even though he was smallest, he was the most dangerous. He was a retired ninja. He looked over his shoulder and found Tomo sitting at the table, eating ramen, and giving him an obscene hand gesture. I haven't seen any punks around here, Naruto replied innocently. The small retired ninja poked his finger at Naruto's nose. You can't protect him forever. No, Naruto couldn't. He was simply somewhere to rest before you had to wake up and deal with life. And life always came for them, whether they wanted to or not. Everyone had their demons to face. The thugs bristled, but they knew who they were dealing with. They had no choice but to back down. The retired ninja addressed Tomo with a growl. Next time, kid, I'll kill you. I find him dead and I'll kill you. Naruto replied in turn, the words came easily to his mouth. The urge to kill has never been so strong. Naruto was actually radiating killing intent. The thugs collapsed under the weight of it and scrambled down the hallway in fear. He turned around and Tomo was eating his ramen much more happily. Tomo kicked his good leg in a happy rhythm under the table. The kid's dark and troubled eyes brightened just a little. You were gone. Mission? Tomo asked. Yeah, Naruto said as he threw off his shirt. I still don't understand why you're a ninja. They're cool and they can scare the shit of good-for-nothing thugs, Naruto suggested. Tomo stirred the noodles, then whispered into his bowl. But ninjas die, like my dad. Not me. I've got to become Hokage first so I can declare a national holiday dedicated especially to ramen. They'd never let you do that. Dango is so much better. Naruto looked appalled. Now I'm going to have to kick you out of my house. Tomo scoffed as he stuffed the rest of the food in his mouth and jumped on the couch in defiance. I'd like to see you try. When Naruto crept over to the couch, Tomo was already fast asleep. Naruto slipped a blanket over the boy's shoulders. He walked into his room and collapsed into his bed. He didn't know what it was, perhaps Tomo's snoring, that finally lulled him to sleep. Naruto woke up in the early dawn, but when he walked into his cramped living room, Tomo was already gone along with all the money in his frog wallet. Naruto didn't mind. He might have purposely left it there. Naruto knew no matter how much money he had, it would not save Tomo's mother, but at the very least, give Tomo more time with her. Every kid deserves more time with their mother. There were reasons why the 4th Shinobi's war hero was the poorest ninja in the village. Even though he inherited the royalties from Jiraiya's Ika series, which was a hefty sum, the Hokage and Naruto had an arrangement to use the funds to pay for her gambling debts. Naruto certainly didn't feel proud making money off of smut. Naruto didn't mind not having money. He wouldn't know what to do with it anyways. Naruto stared at the black book he held in his hands. There were so many things he wanted to change. But first he had to become Hokage, and in order to do that he had to survive Anbu. With a defeated sigh he created several Shadows clones, made several copies of the book, and for the first time in Naruto's life he truly studied until his eyes ached and he could recite the book word for word. Naruto Uzumaki might have saved the world from Madara, and that would be how most of the world would remember him. But every day he came home to the small triumphs that were Maiko and Tomo, the small triumphs none of his friends or anyone else ever knew about. Little did he realize that it was those small triumphs that kept him going, even if no one would ever know his name. In the sink lay 2 washed ramen bowls, the only clean items in the entire house. There was a new moon and the world was shrouded in darkness. Naruto Uzumaki stood atop the Hokage's tower, Anbu uniform crisp and cleaned, dressed as if he was going into battle. As Naruto adjusted his mask, he finally replied, "Ready." Naruto was itching to get this over with. He did not know how long all of the information he had crammed into his thick skull would stay there. Tsunade nodded. It was a ceremony Tsunade has gone through too often as of late, but even so, she has never felt as anxious as she did now. Perhaps it was because of the uncertain young man who stood behind the crow's mask. Then for a moment, just for a moment, in the darkness of the night, Naruto's nonchalant pose that he often carried somehow made the crow persona dangerous. It was gone as quickly as it came, and all she felt was the anxiousness and the fear. Follow. The Hokage jumped from the rooftop and Naruto followed. It was the Hokage's duty to personally oversee the initiation ceremony. After all, it was she who handpicked her elite soldiers that not only served her but more often than not, died for her. They disappeared inside the head of the 5 Kages and were further engulfed by the winding maze of tunnels within the grand cliffs that ringed around the village. The hallways were twisted and Naruto felt as if he had been turned around several times. They stopped in front of 2 large double doors. If Naruto ever had to remember his way back, he wouldn't bet a cup of ramen on it. The Hokage motioned for Naruto to enter first, and as he stepped inside, the 2 large doors emboldened with the sigil of the village hidden in the leaves slammed shut. The darkness was thick and even with Naruto's enhanced senses he could not smell or hear. It was as if he had stepped into a void that trapped everything in the unrelenting darkness. Light came from 2 candles resting atop an altar. Naruto neared it. A katana resting in its scabbard was on display, a small kunai, and a contract that would sign his life away to the Hokage. Children, I have brought a new brother to join the shadows. The Hokage's voice echoed around the room. Lights flickered from the ground to reveal that Naruto was surrounded. There were 4 Anbu captains, along with the Hokage, that ringed him on all sides. The captains bowed in the Hokage's presence, then raised their heads and studied him with the unison of the same words, only the shadows can judge. What are the different assignment classifications? The question came so fast Naruto almost missed it if he hadn't been so well versed: extraction, espionage, assassination, and infiltration. When, if ever, should our identities be compromised? Never, unless the Hokage instructs it under specific code words. The other captains delivered more rapid-fire questions Naruto somehow managed to smoothly answer. Who are you? Naruto sighed in relief at the question that indicated the first part had been completed. I am Crow. Who are we? We are the shadows that the trees cast, the blood spilled from our enemies, the fear known in the dark, the stench of death about a rotting corpse, and the secrets of Konoha. I am the shadow known as Crow. Sign your name if that is who you truly are. Naruto picked up the kunai and slashed through his right shoulder. In large red strokes, he signed the kanji, shadow. Naruto reached for the katana and the moment he gripped the handle the genjutsu was triggered. The words, only the shadows can judge, constantly echoed in his head. Naruto opened his eyes to a blood-red sky. He felt weak and dizzy as he sat up. With a gasp, his eyes widened as he took in his surroundings. Destruction stretched to all sides in the horizon. The world was silent and ruins littered the landscape. Naruto tried going into sage mode with the hopes of sensing anything else other than him alive, but he couldn't. His chakra networks were completely cut off from him. He tried to make a shadow clone, but to no use. His clothes around him were burnt and in tatters. He was wearing his sage coat and an extra coloring caught his eye. He quickly snatched the cloth from the ground and stared at the words framed in black flames upside down, Rokudame Hokage. This was weird. Naruto dropped the tattered material to flutter behind him as he roamed the wreckage. What happened? A deep dark chuckle crept into the air. Naruto knew that wave of killer intent like it was the back of his own hand. Red chakra began to bubble up from the puddles of blood on the ground and began to build until the chakra molded into a complete form. The demon fox was standing before him, flicking all 9 tails with a satisfied sneer. What happened? Naruto demanded as he crossed his arms. The movement made him aware of a wound on his shoulder. Somehow the pain was increasing in intensity. The demon fox looked down at the pest who had caged him for years, who had the nerve to muzzle him like some disobedient dog. With a satisfied drawl the fox answered, "Don't you remember? We killed them. We killed them all." Naruto's face paled. The demon laughed and swiped his claw down. Naruto instinctively tried to summon a Rasengan but like a fly was swatted through the air. The breath was knocked from him as he crashed through rubble and rolled until he had a mouth full of dirt. He could feel the pain of his landing when he tried to get up. He managed to roll over but yelped as the demon fox brought down his paw. "It's just you and me." The 9 tails sneered. He decreased in size but only to increase his accuracy. Weak human flesh parted cleanly as he plunged his claw into Naruto's stomach, right where the seal used to be. The sharp exacting claw unearthed intestines and continued until there was nothing left but a hole of darkness that could not possibly contain his malevolence. Naruto screamed in agony as his organs were torn from his body. In a desperate attempt to escape the pain of having your body ripped apart, he pressed his hands together to form hand seals. The chakra would not react and any hope of reaching it lessened as the demon fox dug his tongue into the large messy hole he created in Naruto's body. The Kyuubi gave a satisfied purr as he lapped the pooling blood. He savored it. Jaws crunched down on Naruto's left arm and Naruto felt as he was being pulled apart. He was being pulled apart. Finally, the pressure snapped. Bones, tendons, and muscles ripped from the socket. Naruto was losing consciousness as he watched in a quivering breath his arm snap and grind between the demon fox's teeth. Suddenly, a large amount of the Kyuubi's chakra pumped into his body, and as agonizing as it was to be pulled apart, the same was true as his body regenerated, pieces snapping and forced together, as he returned to his original form. The rapid manipulation of his body set off a pounding headache. Sweat marred his forehead. A scream ripped from his throat as a claw pressed down on his legs and completely crushed them. The fox feasted from the fear and despair and then declared, "I eat crows for breakfast." In one quick snap of his teeth, the Kyuubi showed Naruto what it feels to be treated like a caged dog. Neutered, whipped, and broken, Naruto coughed out in blood, "Stop." It was the first in a long time Naruto has ever begged the Kyuubi. His answer was the vengeance of 18 imprisoned years in the hard glint of the Kyuubi's eyes. The fox simply smirked, mischievously. Lesson 4. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. All of Konoha heard Naruto's screams when he woke up in the hospital. Ripping the 4 medical sensors from his skin, Naruto rushed for the bathroom. Vomit sprayed from his mouth and covered the toilet. Naruto frantically swept his hands over his body. All was still intact. No blood. But his hands could not stop shaking. A dark chuckle bubbled within the depths of Naruto's consciousness. A shiver crawled up his spine. It's been a while since I've had that much fun. We should do it again sometime. Naruto cowered over the toilet as he remembered. Naruto spat a wad of blood he had bitten down on his tongue so hard, was not funny. You should get a sense of humor. Fuck you, Naruto cursed and hit his head against the porcelain toilet. You did. And the fox demon laughed and thrashed against the cage that weakly held him. It wasn't fair. B and the Hachibi got along just fine. Even after all this time, after fighting Madara together, Naruto and the Kyuubi still couldn't see eye to eye. After the war and the constant pull and tug between their combining chakra, the Kyuubi had got even more restless and Naruto had no choice but to muzzle and chain him down. The chasm of the Kyuubi's hatred was deep. Why? Naruto whined. It's what I do. A flash of the lingering nightmare erupted in Naruto's head and he dry heaved again in the toilet. The hatred and resentment were like a poison. We're not friends. We'll never be friends. The Kyuubi sneered. As long as I am trapped here inside of you, you will always be my enemy. Sakura Haruno, head nurse to Konoha's busy hospital, found her longtime friend and teammate sitting on the floor of the hospital bathroom. His hospital robe was torn open with his hand on the deep black seal imprinted on his stomach. Splatters of vomit remained on his robe and skin. Naruto's face was pale, causing his whiskers marks to contrast more deeply with his skin. The toilet that sat next to him was deformed, obvious hand prints bent into the porcelain. Sakura has worked in a ninja hospital for years now and was used to walking in on scenes of the unusual. She recovered her composure and said simply, "Naruto, get back in bed. Now. If I ever escape, she'd be the first to go. I'd cut her tongue out and bathe in her silent screams." Naruto's head snapped up to look at Sakura, then the blush came as he awkwardly scrambled onto his feet and tried to close the hospital robe he had torn apart. The stumbling idiot was more like the Naruto she knew, not the one Sakura had witnessed a moment before, who looked as if he had experienced the most sickening experience of his life. Sakura quickly wrapped an arm around his shoulder to help him to stand. "Sakura," Naruto quipped, embarrassed. "I can handle it." Sakura did not doubt he could. After all, he was admitted into the hospital without a physical wound to speak of. Still, she was concerned and helped him to sit back onto the hospital bed. Just in case, she checked his vitals and they were stable. Assigned by the Hokage, there was one important reason why Sakura was the only doctor attending Naruto, and that was due to the fact Naruto had one critical physical addition: the Anbu tattoo along his right shoulder. The black curved streaks were emboldened against his golden complexion. As the head medic of Konoha's hospital, she has healed her share of ANBU operatives, oftentimes with wounds so gruesome only she or Tsunade could even treat them. She never knew her patients' code names or masks, only what they were as evidence of the tattoo. Tsunade gave me the option of joining ANBU, Sakura said softly as she reached into the closet to retrieve a new robe for Naruto. It had been one of those days. Naruto had refused to emerge from his apartment, she had been working on little sleep, and she had just lost a small girl to the operating table. Sakura never realized until the moment Tsunade offered her a mask how little a ninja career truly meant to her. She went to Ninja Academy because Sasuke went to Ninja Academy. She excelled in classes to prove herself and gain Sasuke's attention. She became a ninja because Sasuke was a ninja. Her entire childhood had been centered around Sasuke. Back then she had been ignorant of the world, as innocent as the child whose heartbeat died underneath her fingertips. Sakura was surrounded by death, the stench was always as equally present in a hospital as it was on a battlefield. It was by her own choice she decided on which field she would fight. Older, experienced, and more world-weary, she handed the mask back to Tsunade with grace and pride. I declined. There are plenty of field medics, but only one of me. I am more useful to the village running the hospital, especially since Tsunade is kept busy as Hokage. Sakura smiled as she kept her back turned to Naruto. She clutched the robe in her hands. Smartest thing the bitch has ever done. A weak civilian like her was never going to make it very far. Naruto's fists were clenched so hard blood ran from his palms. I think you are awesome, Sakura. Sakura turned to Naruto's easy grin. She walked over and handed him the robe. Is that why you went on a mission so suddenly a week ago? An ANBU mission? Naruto looked up at Sakura in alarm. How did you know? I'm not supposed to. It's on your arm, Naruto. Sakura giggled as Naruto tried to twist and pull his shoulder to his eye. When he saw the tattoo his memory triggered. Oh crap, did I pass? You did. Naruto and Sakura turned to the door where the Hokage stood at the entrance. Sakura, I need to talk to Naruto alone. Yes, Hokage-sama. Sakura bowed and took her leave, but she was definitely going to finish her conversation with Naruto later. The Hokage quickly reminded her, and as I am certain you have already guessed, this is a highly classified secret. Sakura nodded in understanding. She walked down the hall and slowly came to a stop. Nurses passed her as they went to their various assignments with the determination and weariness of old ninjas receiving a mission. Screams from injured patients were last battle cries. Small beeps echoed like the failure of beating hearts. Sakura couldn't help but to remember the tattered scream that tore through the halls in a haunting symphony of agony and fear just a few moments ago. And Naruto, why don't you have any clothes on? Naruto blushed and quickly looked around the room for his own clothes. Finding none, he begrudgingly put on the new hospital robe Sakura retrieved for him. So? I passed? Naruto asked. The only condition was for you to survive. Tsunade gave Naruto a critical once-over with her eyes. He seemed stable enough. What you saw, what happened to you, was not part of the plan. It was supposed to be a genjutsu, almost similar to what you experienced at the Falls of Truth. Instead, Tsunade felt ashamed at out of hand it had gotten. The Kyuubi interfered. The Kyuubi purred in contentment. Tsunade thought Naruto would have been jumping around the room and screaming at her angrily. She certainly would have. She had seen the tortures Naruto had been put through. She had been forced to watch. Even the ANBU captains who have seen some sick and disgusting scenes in their career were more than relieved when Tsunade offered them Yamanaka to tamper with their memory. Tsunade didn't take that option. It was the Hokage's job to bear the burden of those who followed her. You're not mad? Tsunade asked. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Even if he was, there was no point yelling to her about it. The demon fox had always been his problem and he'll handle it alone. Can I get out of here? Naruto asked. I hate hospitals. Tsunade studied the young man in front of her with a worried sigh. At this point, she was willing to forgive him anything. I'll turn a blind eye if you promise me you'll get some rest. Then I want you to see me tomorrow. There are more protocols we need to go over. Naruto brightened with a smile. Then he was already out of the window. It always amazed Tsunade how strong Naruto has become. Only someone as resilient as him could be so brutally tortured and still wear a smile on his face, if not for him, but for the sake of everyone around him. Naruto did not go straight home. When he was younger, he used to swing his legs as he sat on the stool, waiting. Now he could only bounce his leg against the ground as he leaned over the counter in anticipation. Is it ready yet? Naruto was compelled to ask even though he had long ago memorized the time it took for every item on the list to cook. Ayam playfully hit his forehead with a wooden spoon. You're always so impatient, she teased. It is your fault, you know. She gestured with a wink to the crowded ramen stand. It had become popular ever since Naruto became labeled as the hero of the village. Other customers sat across from him, sneaking a peek out of the corner of their eyes. A group of girls were whispering with his name on their tongue. But none joined him. They all looked on at a distance as if he was an idol that shouldn't be touched. Naruto averted his eyes away from the crowd and concentrated on Ayam. He couldn't admit to himself that the hateful and distrustful looks of his past were more comfortable than the ones of admiration. Like a brand new pair of shoes that just didn't fit right, something deep in him longed to go back to his broken, dirty, but comfortable old pair. Those pests don't care anything about you. They were the ones talking behind your back only a few years ago. They deserve to die. Naruto refused to be goaded by the Kyuubi's comments, no matter how much the truth was chafing against his skin. He was relieved when old man Tucci placed a ramen bowl in front of him, and knowing the nature of Naruto's appetite, quickly turned back to the kitchen to make more. Naruto dug in with gusto. Ayam watched with a smile as she turned to attend the other customers. Explosions of flavor set off in his mouth when he began, but they soon left debris of blandness. The noodles began to hang limp from his mouth. Naruto didn't care what anyone said, ramen could fix anything. Look at how they're staring at you, as if they weren't the ones to beat you in the street or turn the other cheek. Hey, Naruto, are you alright? Ayam asked as she noticed his diminished appetite. When she tried to walk over to him, after a blink of the eye, he was gone. He left one bowl of half-eaten noodles behind. Dad, Naruto didn't eat, Ayam whispered to her father. They both stared at each other with worried looks. Somehow Naruto found himself alone in the middle of a park, sitting on a swing set. A long time ago he could swing his legs absent-mindedly in the air. Now his feet touched the rough ground. Naruto Uzumaki stood with his arms crossed. The sage coat he wore fluttered in the wind that was pumped through the broken pipes above. He stood ankle-deep in sewage water as he stared at the demon fox, jailed inside of his mindscape. If there was one thing Naruto had learned through his 18 years of life, it was how to deal with the Kyuubi that he housed. With the persistent and determined attitude that characterized him, Naruto stood before the Kyuubi. I will make the cage smaller and muzzle you again, Naruto threatened as he craned his neck upwards with a grimace. There was a time when he believed he could do something about the demon fox's anger, but that was an optimist's delusion. Trying to change the demon fox's nature was as futile as grasping water. The Kyuubi sneered and bared his fangs. I will escape this prison and you will pay for my humiliation dearly. Someday I am going to die and I will take you with me, Naruto promised. I refuse to let anyone else suffer your hatred. The Kyuubi snarled as he rammed his muzzle against the bars. I will not die, fool. Are you sure? Naruto's voice was a steady stone. For 18 years now, your chakra has been leaking into mine and eventually we will become interconnected. The more that happens the more you are so desperate to escape. I think we are reaching a point soon that we can never be apart, in life and death. The Kyuubi paced through the bars. I will destroy you. I don't hate you. I pity you. The water flowed around his feet. I'm going to give you another chance. I won't muzzle or cage you, but if you insist on telling me to kill everyone I see in the streets, then I won't hesitate. You don't order me around, boy. The two stood, staring each other down. In the presence of sheer malevolence, Naruto could not comprehend how he ever considered Sasuke his greatest rival. He had been wrong. Naruto's greatest rival had always been inside of him. I'm not the one in a cage, Naruto spat as he turned around, his back turned to the caged demon. The fox chuckled in his footsteps. The sun glowed through the window by the time Naruto stepped out the bathroom. His growing hair limped around his ears as it dried in the warm air. With a towel wrapped around his waist, he set about making him some breakfast. He was starving. I'm impressed. Naruto swiveled in annoyance as Kakashi sat in the open window of Naruto's apartment. His face was hidden by a mask, tucked behind the book he studied almost religiously. Why do you have to show up when I'm not wearing anything? Kakashi pulled his book down. Yaoi is not my type of kunai, but if it's your weapon of choice I don't judge. Naruto didn't even want to know what he was talking about and stormed into his room to get dressed. He pulled on sweatpants and a shirt, and then he smelled something burning. Naruto ran into the living room to take the pot off the stove. His breakfast was burning while Kakashi sat at the window without a care in the world. Why are you here? Naruto asked annoyed. I hear the captain's had an appointment with Yamanaka. What in the world did you do? Naruto would never figure out how Kakashi knew everything, even information classified as a secret. The fox, Naruto grumbled and started another pot of noodles. Normally, Naruto would have eaten the burnt set if it had been the last, but thankfully, Sakura had filled his cabinets. I take it you haven't seen the Hokage yet? I was going to after I ate breakfast, Naruto replied and stared at the pot of calm water. Impatient, he threw the pack of noodles in and waited for both to come to a boil. The tattoo, Kakashi said without ever looking up from his book to see if it was even there, should be hinged at all times when you aren't wearing a mask. Oh, that made sense. Naruto immediately hinged the skin on his shoulder and the tattoo disappeared under the cover of the ninjutsu. A knock pounded heavily on the door. Pulled away from his ramen, Naruto stomped angrily over to the door to reveal Sakura about to slam the door down with her impatience. Hey Naruto, Sakura greeted and saw Kakashi at the window over Naruto's shoulder. Kakashi gave a quick oi in greeting. Good morning Kakashi, Sakura greeted as she shoved Naruto out of her way and walked inside of the apartment. Naruto! How many times have I told you it's not healthy to live like this? Sakura kicked the empty ramen containers and dirty clothes on the floor. There could be rats. I haven't gotten around to it. Naruto scratched the back of his head. I'll do it, I promise. Seriously Naruto. You can make 100 of yourself and not one of them has ever thought about cleaning up around here? Sakura huffed, completely forgetting why she stopped by in the first place. She sniffed the air, a scent caught her attention. Naruto, something is burning. Crap! Naruto raced to his oven and stared heartbroken at his second batch of burnt ramen. He was so hungry he put a fork to it anyways, until he found himself embedded in the opposite wall by way of Sakura's fist. You can't eat that. It's burnt. Sakura took the cracked pot and threw the contents in the trash. She opened the fridge and took out the eggs and sausage. Naruto stared amazed. He had no idea that stuff was in there. Sakura slammed the ingredients on the counter. She was going to make a proper breakfast. Naruto looked at the cracks in his wall as he picked himself up. He hoped the money he made in Anbu would be enough to fix it. Why are you here, by the way? Oh, Sakura turned with one hand on her hip, I came to check up on you. I'm guessing you can't tell me what happened, but I just wanted to make sure you were alright and give you these. Sakura pulled a bottle of pills from her belt and placed them on the counter. Most Anbu patients have trouble sleeping. I figure you would need them. Naruto didn't know what to say. People doing random things for him still surprised him. They are pretty effective, Kakashi agreed. Retired Anbu never truly leave Anbu. Oh wow, Naruto smiled, thanks Sakura. She smiled smugly. Guess what? Breakfast is almost ready. Just as she said those words a cloud of smoke appeared in the middle of the room, revealing an Anbu agent with a grotesque squid mask. Great, a Team 7 reunion, Kakashi muttered. Sakura, much faster than her blonde counterpart, Sai? I am not Sai. I am Squid. If I was Sai, I would be under rights to kill you. But I am not Sai. I am Squid. Naruto was much slower. Sai? Naruto took one look at the squid mask which had more expression than the man underneath ever wore. He collapsed in a fit of laughter. Sakura was the one who realized how odd the moment was. Kakashi could have, but didn't care. They had been a team once, like a puzzle that has had its pieces shuffled, lost, and forced together to form a suggestion of the image that had once been there before, just a little crooked, with holes and jagged edges. A random occurrence of fate, on a random day, brought the last remnants together since the war where Yamamoto died, and an end to whatever was left of Sasuke's soul. They had been a team once. Naruto stood in the middle of these three individuals and the day suddenly didn't seem very random at all. The Hokage requests your presence. But. Naruto looked like a lost puppy. I didn't get to eat breakfast. Slight smiles appeared, even hidden by masks, they were there. They smiled at the endearing personality of their friend, the glue that kept the uneven pieces crushed together. Tsunade looked at her new ANBU agent. His growing build and developed muscles accentuated the uniform. Unlike other ANBU agents who always stood at respectful attention in her presence, this one fidgeted impatiently. It gave him the look of a crow, and for a moment he looked almost intimidating. That was until his stomach growled loudly in the room. Shizune, who stood in the corner with the files, giggled. Shouldn't you have eaten already? I was rudely interrupted. The crow mask echoed the bitterness loud and clear. You can get some food after we're done, but first things first, you need an alibi. Alibi? Naruto asked, confused. A double life, Tsunade explained, for example a grocery store owner or fisherman. So, you're telling me that the local grocery store owner could be ANBU? Naruto questioned and went through a profile of all the unsuspecting villagers of Konoha in his mind. Tsunade only smiled. But your case is different. With your chakra, implanting a shadow clone in your normal routines will be more effective than coming up with imaginary missions to explain your disappearance. Your shadow clone will be Uzumaki Naruto, and it will be as if you are always here. This is of the utmost importance so that our enemy spies will believe you are in the village always at hand. Naruto nodded and tried to take in the rush of new information and instructions seriously. After all, he was ANBU now. For every mission, the squad leaders are given the files of their squad so they will be familiar with the talents of their team members. No doubt anyone with half a brain will figure out who you are. Within ANBU, your identity will most likely be compromised. So even some ANBU don't know who each other are? Tsunade nodded. It's safer, but keep in mind not everyone in ANBU will be aware of your identity. In an ANBU's career, they tend to work with the same handful of agents. These protocols are in place so if one ANBU is caught and tortured, he will not be able to reveal everyone's identity and skills. But listen to me carefully, no one, and I mean no one, is to know your identity outside of ANBU. Naruto didn't know how to bring up Kakashi and Sakura. There are exceptions. An ANBU agent has the option of telling close family members. As you have no family, Kakashi and Sakura can be your exceptions. They are granted limited access. They are allowed to know you are an ANBU but not your codename. It was dangerous to even allow family members such information, but the danger paled in comparison to the alternative. ANBU agents needed an anchor, people to help them remember there was someone living and breathing behind the mask. They were often the thin line left holding them to humanity. From here on out, while you are in uniform you are not to get anything from your house, unless using Shadow Clone. You are not to hang out or talk with anyone that you know if it's not mission related, unless using a Shadow Clone. You are not to be seen, unless using Shadow Clone. Do you understand? Your involvement in ANBU is a highly classified secret. Naruto nodded his head quickly. Any questions? If I can't go back home, where am I supposed to live? While you are on duty, you are to live at ANBU headquarters. This allows agents to be at my beck and call at all times. And where is that? In a moment, Tsunade pulled a thick paper from her desk. This is your schedule. As a new agent you have not yet been qualified for field work. You are stuck doing grunt work until your overseers tell me that you are ready. Then I will begin giving you missions into the field. Naruto looked over the schedule without much thought. That's it, Tsunade said proudly, finally finished with all of his paperwork. Any questions? Tsunade was already reaching for the next load of paperwork when Naruto said, actually I do have something to ask, but it's not ANBU related. Tsunade raised a curious eyebrow. Naruto reached for his mask. You are not supposed to. Tsunade began as Naruto took the mask off from his face. The expression he carried made her falter. It was the same expression she saw back during the war when Naruto stood defiantly before her and the Raikage. I want to talk to you about the nine-tailed fox. Tsunade folded her hands below her chin. Continue. In the case that I am to die, Naruto faced those words with utmost determination. It was the first time Naruto has ever broached the subject of his future other than being Hokage. I want to be the last nine-tailed Jinchuriki. Tsunade slowly opened a drawer in her desk and pulled out a bottle of sake. She filled 2 cups. Honestly, Naruto, that request might not be realistic. Why not? Naruto demanded as Tsunade took a slow sip from her sake. The other villages lost their tailed demons to Akatsuki. Killer Bee and I are the only ones left. There's no point for a Jinchuriki to even exist anymore. Tsunade sighed into cup. It's true that is the case, but the demon fox is a property of the village. Konoha will lose a great source of its power. It gives us great influence among the villages, and now because of you, the villagers have come to rely on a Jinchuriki to keep them safe and protected. Tsunade hated the truth, but the truth was that a lot of Konoha's political weight rested on the fact that the village hidden in the leaves controlled the nine-tailed fox. This is the very reason why your identity in Anbu is classed a secret higher than the identity of other agents. If the elders find out that I'll be putting you in the field and in danger so much, they'll have my ass for it. They won't say it aloud, but the reason why they are so adamant in keeping you in the village is in the case that something happens to you they want to be there to oversee your death. Tsunade gripped her sake bottle. You can't let that happen, Naruto said softly. I will, if I must, Tsunade replied. There are records that state the demon fox can survive the death of his Jinchuriki. If I ever had to make the decision, I will create another Jinchuriki before letting it fall into enemy hands or taking revenge on the village. It won't happen. Naruto said firmly, I think because the fox and I have been connected for so long we'll both die together. You think? Tsunade stressed. Naruto gripped the wood of the desk. I am not going to let another child carry this burden. Like your son or daughter, Tsunade whispered. What do you mean? Naruto asked in confusion. Oh. It hit Naruto suddenly, the fact that Konoha's Jinchuriki legacy had been passed down among the Uzumaki bloodline for the special chakra they carried. It completely blindsided him because he had never thought of having a family, much less children. Then to know those children will most likely be the next vessel if his assumptions were wrong. Naruto's face paled and shakily grabbed the cup of alcohol Tsunade had poured. I know it's not something you want to hear, but the fact is sometimes a ninja's duty to the village is more than just accomplishing missions. This was a conversation Tsunade hoped to have when the poor boy was at least 20. Ninja understood that one of their primary duties was to produce living breathing weapons for the village. Tsunade knew Naruto would have a harder time understanding. The alcohol went bitter down Naruto's throat. He slammed the small cup down and it shattered. His whiskered cheeks were suddenly more pronounced, his eyes blood red. You should trust me a little more, Hokage, Naruto said as he calmly straightened his shoulders. I will destroy the Kyuubi. As Naruto walked from the office, there was an eruption of laughter so loud it gave him a headache. I'd like to see you try. Lesson 5. The mentally insane crazy characters of Anbu. If the bustling streets of Konoha belonged to the citizens, then the underground belonged to the shadows. Naruto Uzumaki woke up in the room given to him by Anbu headquarters. It was larger than his apartment. It was almost like a mini-house, with a separate bathroom, couch, and even small kitchen set. There were multiple racks on the wall to showcase different equipment. His katana rested on the lowest peg. A bingo book lay haphazardly on the floor. His uniform was thrown over the couch. Naruto reached out and slammed the alarm clock angrily, but it was ninja-proof, and did not stop. With an annoyed grunt, he rolled over and pressed the right coordination of buttons. Naruto was sore and the stress of his muscles screamed throughout his body. Still, he was not going to be late to another training session. He fell out of bed with an exhausted roll. He threw on his clothes, his mask, and grumpily slammed his door shut behind him. There was no point in locking, sealing, or even trapping a door when you lived among the most elite of shinobi. If they wanted to get in, they will find a way. Naruto stepped out of his room and the hall stretched in both directions. The door behind him had a picture of a crow etched into the wood. Similar doors aligned the hallways, all decorated with the symbols of various animals. There were plenty of Anbu already roaming through the underground where large and twisted roots the size of buildings created great domed spaces. And Naruto thought he got up early. There was hardly any socializing among the Anbu. Meals were eaten in the privacy of rooms, baths and sleeping quarters were separate, all for the sake of preserving one's identity. If the Anbu underground claimed to have a center, it would be the training area. Anbu said good morning with a punch to each other faces. Naruto walked onto the vast training area that perhaps spanned the entire village of Konoha. There were private rooms if requested, gym and ninja equipment, and environmental areas to simulate realistic battlegrounds. It was a training exercise just to avoid the many sparring matches as Naruto dodged countless ninjutsu attacks. In the midst of the fighting, sat a lone figure frozen in meditation. A katana sat across his lap and the white coat of an ANBU captain hung on his shoulders. Blonde hair scattered around the mask and flowed down his chest in a long ponytail. Naruto slid to a stop before his katana master, Tiger. 200 Ryo, he won't last longer than 30 minutes. Naruto grumbled as the ANBU who stood above the railing started placing bets. Somehow, he had become the morning entertainment. Naruto had once asked Sai if they did that for all the newcomers, evidently just for the bad ones. Naruto conceded his skill with a katana was rather pitiful, but he thought he was getting better. As Naruto waited patiently for his teacher to finish his routine, Naruto began to do a series of stretches. On the first day Naruto had learned never to interrupt Tiger's meditation. It was the first time Naruto had come the closest to death since joining ANBU, and it wouldn't be the last. Finally, Tiger stood from his cross-legged pose. He opened his eyes and a chill crept up Naruto's spine. Rumors said that Tiger hasn't been allowed above ground in years, that he not only missed the fourth but the third Shinobi War as well. Tiger, like some of the other ANBU agents, have never even heard the name of Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto had become a no one, a nobody. He was clawing respect for himself all over again. "Good morning, Tiger-sensei," Naruto bowed respectfully. Tiger deflected his words with a nod. Morning no longer mattered to one such as he. When you lived underground, it was hard to tell the time, it was always midnight. Tiger might be in charge of training the newest recruits in the ways of the sword, but his reason to be was the blade. He lived and breathed its metal. The rules are the same. No genjutsu, ninjutsu, or taijutsu, simply the blade. Naruto unsheathed his sword and readied his stance. They circled one another. Tiger held his blade aloft and with the grace and power of his namesake, literally prowled around his target. Sweat dropped from Naruto's brow. Even though they were moving in tandem with each other, he could feel how unequal it was, as if he was the one being encircled. The only warning Naruto got was a shift in the air. The clash of metal was drowned by the great sounds of other fights in the room. Naruto barely deflected the blow, stepped back and gave ground as he went on a desperate defensive. Tiger whittled down his prey with the steel arrogance of a hunter. Naruto had never realized how slow he was. It was true he could reach speeds that matched the Raikage, but that was in Sage Mode or Fox Cloak. Without any enhancing chakra, Tiger's speed was like lightning and Naruto was pushing through water. Naruto staggered and a blade cut through his arm. He winced as it grazed his bone but was resilient enough to recover in time for the next barrage of attacks. Tiger believed the experience of a sword cut was the best method of teaching. "I bet you the maggot is a medic nin, did you notice how healed he is from yesterday? Not all the fancy healing jutsu in the world is still going to save his ass. I say 10 more minutes. Naruto was used to the odds always being against him. He was slower, less powerful, and less experienced than Tiger. But Naruto wasn't renowned as Konoha's #1 unpredictable ninja for nothing. An idea formed as Naruto was thrashed around the practice area. He stepped to the right, and with a smirk thankfully hidden by his mask, fell to the ground in a crouch. A stray jutsu from a separate sparring match whizzed over Naruto's head. Tiger noticed it too late, but he was fast, and the earth jutsu missed Tiger's chest but slammed into his arm. Naruto took advantage of the opportunity and countered. His blade nicked Tiger's shoulder before Tiger leapt back. The captain landed in a crouch, bleeding blood. Tiger touched his hand to his bloodied shoulder and held it aloft, looking at it in a curious sort of way. The ANBU watching were leaning over the railing. No way, no one has been able to draw Tiger's blood in years. He got lucky. Hey, I think I actually win the bet this time. Tiger left his fighting stance. How was that? Naruto asked proudly. Tiger walked towards him, and before Naruto could react, a sword was suddenly plunged through Naruto's chest. The accuracy of the blow was truly remarkable, as it was inches away from ending his life. The fight isn't over until blades are sheathed, Tiger whispered in Naruto's ear and then withdrew his sword. Naruto's breath hitched as the blade was pulled from his body. Training is done for today. Same time tomorrow. The white ANBU captain cloak rustled as Tiger walked calmly off the training area. Stray jutsu whizzed over his head and at times, dangerously close, but none ever hit. A trail of blood followed him. Naruto fell to his knees as his flak jacket was quickly soaked with blood.
The pain was like being devoured by fire. It got worse and more life-threatening as time passed. Who knew Tiger was such a sore loser?
Should we do something? He's a medic ninja, he'll be fine. Naruto collapsed on the ground. Maybe not.
Naruto felt a hand on his back and his insides began to repair themselves as a cool chill swept through his body.
Hey Maggot, you alright?
Naruto groaned at the nickname given to unfielded agents. When he looked up, he saw 3 masks: Sparrow, Baboon, and Bobcat. Naruto limply raised his hand and gave all 3 an offensive hand gesture. It was not luck.
Baboon and Sparrow laughed.
Baboon's laughter was so heavy it suffocated the ringing in Naruto's head.
You know, Maggot, you got spunk. Baboon, twice the size of normal men, dragged Naruto up to his feet easily. Naruto winced as he balanced himself.
He was breathing hard and blood still leaked from the wound.
Sorry, Sparrow shrugged. Medic ninjutsu is not my specialty. There were many ANBU agents who knew at least basic medical ninjutsu.
Of course, not until it was too late. Sparrow leaned over Naruto's shoulder, along with his side ponytail of black hair.
Since it looks like you've got time, how about a sparring match?
That's an unfair advantage, he's wounded, Bobcat said timidly. He was the smallest of the 3 and held a defensive stance.
Just a little fun, Sparrow goaded.
There was a large red tattoo on Sparrow's shoulder. Naruto's stomach grumbled. Since his training session with Tiger had ended early, he wanted to get breakfast, but he's never said no to a sparring match either.
It would be the first time Naruto could test the full extent of his abilities against another ANBU member.
That's we're already being places, Naruto said. You're on.
ANBU said good morning with a punch to each other's faces.
Naruto limped down the corridor, his uniform torn to bloody pieces and bruises blossoming along his skin. His lip was busted, he had trouble breathing, but had a huge wad of cash in his pocket. It's been a long time since Naruto could go all out like that. He had used up 2 reserve Sage clones and even used his fox cloak. The training area was wrecked and almost everyone had stopped to watch the fight in curiosity. Naruto was surely making a name for himself.
There you are.
Naruto froze at that voice and hardly had the strength to fight as he was pushed against the wall. A snake mask suddenly filled his field of vision. That fight was rather impressive. Captain Snake whistled as she held a chakra-infused palm to keep Naruto pinned to the wall. She wore a white cloak and a mesh shirt underneath, completely disregarding uniform. Snake, Naruto croaked before Snake pulled up his mask and her lips were on his. Naruto surrendered against the wall as her breasts pressed into his chest and she forced her tongue into his mouth. The heat was unbearable as the blood not leaking out of Naruto's body rushed downwards. She gripped his hard cock and fondled him before releasing him from the kiss. Her lips licked against his ear and then she whispered, "By now the poison that I am immune to have entered through your mouth and is destroying your body." She squeezed his cock harder. "You'd be dead by now. Or you'd be dead." Naruto smirked as he held a kunai to her chest and then suddenly disappeared in a cloud of smoke.
Snake snapped back with a curse. Well, I'll be damned.
Naruto lounged on a rooftop in boredom as one of his shadow clones dissipated.
A smirk crossed his lips when he learned Snake finally fell for one of the decoys he had planted throughout ANBU. Without the burdens of saving the world and a deranged S-class criminal obsessing his thoughts,
Snake had helped Naruto to realize he had grown into a full-blooded male and the consequences were obvious as he failed every test she put before him.
His final solution to the problem was simple: never get caught. What are you smirking for, Maggot? Sloth asked.
How did Naruto began, but stopped with a sigh. Naruto accepted the fact that Sloth knew everything, even down to the expressions he wore behind his mask.
I finally got one over on Snake. Sloth lounged over the building as he stared intently into the distance.
You should not have done that.
Why not?
There are a lot of crazy characters in ANBU, her included. Some people take their tests a little too seriously. Yeah, Naruto grumbled as he remembered Tiger completely blindsiding him with a strike to the gut.
Naruto's bandaged chest still hurt when he made any sharp movements.
Naruto sighed as he sat back and continued watching the Hokage through the window of her office as she took a nap, with stacks of paper piling up around her. This was boring and he was beginning to have a sneaking suspicion why he had been teamed with Sloth for bodyguard duty. The Hokage knew he would try using a shadow clone to get out of it, but with Sloth watching his every move that was nearly impossible. Naruto curiously looked in the direction Sloth was staring.
What could possibly be so interesting? Naruto ran through a mental map of Konoha.
Wait,
are you peeking in the girls' bathhouse? You should be concentrating on the Hokage.
You never know when you need to prepare a silence or obscurity jutsu when some dumbass wants to take his mask off in her office and talk about S-class secrets, Sloth said casually.
Naruto crossed his arms with a pout, and here I thought all Hyugas were stuck-up goody two-shoes. I've shed that name a long time ago, Sloth scoffed.
He tapped the part of the mask that covered his eyes. Besides, Hyugas are born natural pervs. You can't masturbate or have sex in that household without someone peeking in on you.
I was glad to get out of there. So I can do the peeking, not the other way around. An image of Neji invaded Naruto's head. No wonder why he was so uptight all the time.
A grin cracked Naruto's face and he couldn't help but to laugh.
There you are. Naruto wasn't laughing anymore.
He froze and turned around to find Snake standing on a light post. Even with his increased sense of smell and hearing, there were only a few ANBU agents who could manage to sneak up on him.
Why didn't you say anything? Naruto panicked as he turned and scooted against the roof. Do you know how foolish you made me look this morning?
Snake asked as she jumped from the post and slithered toward him. Sloth shrugged his shoulders.
She's not mad at me.
Naruto was in full fox cloak as he blasted across the rooftops, determined not to ever get caught. Naruto sighed as he walked into his scheduled meeting with Yamanaka, all the while managing to avoid Snake for the past few hours. If nothing else, his evasion skills were being polished since his prankster days. Crow, Inoichi Yamanaka nodded as he received another patient out of the long list he held in his hands. Sit in the chair, Yamanaka stated procedurally as he walked around the room and set up the equipment to the ANBU agent's head.
Do you mind telling me what this is for? Naruto asked curiously.
We will be practicing and training your mental defenses in case you are captured by the enemy.
Naruto nodded uncomfortably.
He wasn't too sure about letting someone into his head, but he allowed the suctions to be placed to skin. A few machines in the corner began to glow with life and beep with information.
Everything's normal, an assistant in the corner reported. It was Ino.
She pressed buttons and casually looked at a monitor. Naruto wanted to say hi but had to remember to keep his identity a secret.
Alright, Inoichi set his clipboard down.
For this first time, don't put up any resistance.
We need to measure your vitals in the presence of a mental threat.
Then afterwards, we'll work on resisting my intrusion. Inoichi placed a hand on Naruto's forehead and closed his eyes. When Inoichi reopened them, he was floating in the presence of a brain, wells of information leaking from the stem.
Inoichi did an assessment of the mental health of the brain first and noted down any signs of stress.
The hairs on the back of Inoichi's neck began to stand on end. He turned around but found nothing there.
He frowned. He told the agent not to put up any mental defenses. Confident he could counter whatever defense mechanisms were beginning to react, Inoichi turned back toward the brain.
He picked a random memory to extract, and when he physically touched the brain to pull out the scroll, Inoichi's entire body froze in the presence of a horrifying killer intent. Inoichi Yamanaka was the best of the best, but even he wasn't prepared for this.
In reality, Inoichi's hand was stuck to the semi-conscious forehead of the ANBU agent.
Inoichi began to scream and his vitals were quickly diminishing.
Dad?
Ino climbed over the equipment in a hurried rush to release her father from the jutsu that was killing him. Ino pressed her hand on his shoulder and disrupted the jutsu. Inoichi collapsed on the ground in a shiver.
Naruto opened his eyes and jumped from the chair. What happened? Did something attack? That was an understatement. Damn crazy ANBU, Inoichi coughed as he raised his hands. He drew a big red X on the crow's file. We're done. Ibiki cracked his neck as a new ANBU agent entered his office.
In actuality, the room looked more like a cell, but Ibiki loved to set an atmosphere. Naruto gulped at the wicked smile on Ibiki's face as the door slammed shut behind him.
Have a seat. There was only one seat in the room, which was the only item in the room.
Naruto sat in the chair with a great amount of trepidation.
Do you know why you're here? Ibiki asked.
Not really, Naruto responded slowly.
Ibiki walked around the crow, folding his hands behind his back.
ANBU agents are involved in very dangerous missions, thus there is a greater possibility of being captured by the enemy. Ibiki leaned forward, his long scar marring his face.
I should know. Naruto gulped. Every ANBU agent is required to see me at least once a month when they are not away on a mission assignment.
My job is to condition your body to resist torture, ideally until a team is sent to rescue you, most likely, until you die.
Either way, Konoha's secrets should not fall into the wrong hands.
Chains sprouted from the hollow insides of the chair and wrapped around Naruto's chest, ankles, and arms. Ibiki leaned forward, killer intent radiating off his person at all times.
Let's begin.
Ibiki put forth the first question he always gives to new agents, the one they are to protect with their life.
What is your name?
Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto answered without thought. It was only a second later he remembered he wasn't supposed to be Naruto anymore.
There was a chill in the wind, but there was no wind in the room. Ibiki coughed as he straightened his shoulders. A moment of silence elapsed until, that was a new record.
But I haven't decided if you cracked so easily due to the fear I can instill in you or your plain stupidity. Oh, Naruto gave an unseen apologetic grin.
That was a part of the test? We can start over. I won't screw up this time.
Ibiki began to think of ways how he could torture the Hokage for making him put up with this kid. Ibiki stared at the same kid that he had passed through the Chunin exams who never answered a single question on the first test. He stared at the hero of the Leaf Village, war hero of the Fourth Shinobi War.
He stared at the pathetic excuse for an ANBU. He was going to have to fix that.
Ino Yamanaka sighed as she finished with her latest psychotic patient and pressed the button to call another one in. She brushed some dust from her ugly and unfashionable pants.
Then she readjusted the butterfly mask she wore. When she decided to join ANBU, she was supposed to be following in her father's footsteps and enter the interrogation/torture unit. Even though she was training as her father's assistant and protege, part-time she was stuck doing psych evaluation for ANBU. PYSCH evaluations were simply a routine checkup and most of her patients just stared at her in daring silence. People with her abilities were recruited to help with this particular work, but still, why her? Ino felt it was a waste of time when she could be ripping apart someone's brains. The most she ever learned in this particular job was how to become immune to killing intent. Ino flipped through her next patient's report. It was a blank slate with no mission history, signaling this agent was new.
She stared at the codename. This was the same one who had put her father in the hospital.
Great, someone's head who was so messed up even her father was helpless against it.
The door opened. Ino raised an eyebrow as her patient entered. She couldn't see his face as it was covered by the crow mask, but her eyes were immediately drawn by how his body filled out his uniform. He had nice muscled arms.
Ino judged this one had to be well versed in taijutsu at least. She watched as Crow collapsed in the chair before her. Please tell me that this is just a psych evaluation where I just talk about my feelings and stuff.
I don't think I can take any more surprises, ambushes, traps, genjutsu, henges, or even someone jumping out of that corner and saying surprise.
Ino smiled brilliantly. Thank Kami. Someone with a sense of humor or at least personality.
It might be hard to believe, but most of my patients would rather jump off a cliff than speak about their feelings, Ino replied.
Naruto scoffed. He was completely exhausted and was sort of relieved he had someone to talk to even if she did wear a mask. So, how was your first week in ANBU? Ino began.
Horrifying and exciting at the same time, Naruto easily answered. I love the new training regimen, but Ibiki has me in his office every day because of my little mess up. He should have explained the rules first.
And Tiger pummels me into the ground ever since I pulled that stunt on him, and don't get me started on Snake. Ino wrote down in her notebook, loves to talk. I know what you mean.
I had to do an evaluation on Snake a few weeks ago. I swear, that woman loves to torture people.
It's cruel that she's assigned to you.
I'm beginning to think the Hokage did it on purpose, Naruto grumbled. Not even the Hokage is that cruel.
Naruto thought otherwise. Ino went to the next subject on her list. Have you delved into your mindscape yet? It's okay if you haven't. Many ninja haven't done it before. Why? Ino noticed the first signs of defense in his voice. Ino explained calmly, it's important for all agents to be able to enter their mindscape.
It can be a haven in case of a traumatic event, having access to it can greatly increase your focus in meditation, and it is a reflection of mental health.
It is for this latter reason why I am interested in your mindscape.
Oh, Naruto said softly.
Yeah, I can access it. Good, we can skip all of the mental exercises. Do you mind describing it for me? Ino asked as she pressed the tip of her pen against the paper.
Naruto couldn't possibly tell her about the Kyuubi caged in the middle of it.
It's like a sewer. I'm sorry, did you say sewer? Yeah, is there something wrong? No, Ino said quickly as she wrote the detail on the sheet of paper. None of the books she has ever read had an interpretation for a sewer. There are pipes along the wall, but most of them are broken, hot wind leaks out of them. There is water on the ground and it reaches as high as my ankles. There are tunnels in every direction, small ones leading to darkness, but they all twist and turn, all paths eventually leading to one. And what does the paths lead to? Ino asked softly, frightened. Nothing, Naruto whispered. It leads to nothing. Wake up. Naruto snapped awake. He tried to sit up but was pulled back down. Cords bound his arms and legs to the bed. He looked up and there was a porcelain mask of a snake outlined in the darkness as she leaned over him. What are you doing? So pathetic, she teased, all I had to do was open the door. There were no traps or seals anywhere. What if you had been on a mission? If your enemies were nice, they'd kill you. If your enemies were mean.
Snake made her point as the buttons popped off from Naruto's nightshirt as she ripped it open.
This is insane. Naruto yelled. Screaming isn't going to help you.
It took you so long to wake up I even had time to place a silence jutsu around us.
Aren't you in a predicament? Okay, I get it. I won't go to sleep without precautions, so can you please let me go? Naruto whined.
Snake smirked as she slithered onto the bed and sat on his stomach.
But as your teacher I care about you and I can't possibly risk letting you make mistakes. Naruto squirmed in pain as Snake placed a needle into his chest. Anko please.
I thought you'd learn by now, only codenames my dear student.
Naruto tried to wrestle with the bindings as needles were placed into his chest.
They pierced his skin and blood pooled underneath each embedded needle.
Snake didn't stop until she eventually drew a picture of a happy face.
She pulled above him and took his mouth to hers. Her tongue intruded into his mouth and stole her way through. All the while her torso pressed down on the needles and the pain increased.
Her tongue shoved farther and farther down his throat until he couldn't breathe. You freaking idiot.
If you don't get this bitch off of you, you're going to suffocate to death.
Naruto was too caught up in the confusion of lust to even draw on any chakra. Right before he couldn't take it anymore, Snake let up.
You're hopeless, she threw up her arms. You would be dead 5 times over. A flush of embarrassment crossed Naruto's face as Snake lifted off of him and sat on the edge of the bed. It's just hard to think when you're on top of me, Naruto mumbled.
Snake shook her head.
Because all your blood leaves your brain and you think with your cock.
Men. You do realize that one of the highest causes of death for a male ninja is an enemy kunoichi?
And often with their pants down at that.
Snake stood up and looked at her inspiring happy face artwork.
It was crying in streaks of blood. That's all men want, power and sex, Snake said bitterly. Anko, not all guys are like that, Naruto said helpfully.
Snake's shoulders dipped.
Behind the mask was an expression of bitterness and a myriad of memories.
You're just a pathetic little virgin. Snake turned for the door. Can you please let me go? Snake exploded with a maniacal laughter. Where is the fun in that? Wait. Untie me.
Naruto's yells went unheard as Snake slammed his door shut. His hands were tied so he couldn't make hand signs.
He went fox cloak, but not even the strength of that form could break the bindings. What the hell were they made of? He had to get out. Tiger was going to kill him for being late. The smiley face looked as if it was laughing just as manically as its creator. And that was how Naruto's first week in Anbu had ended. Lesson 6. How to Stop a Beating Heart. Tsunade sighed as she stared at the mission outline she just received on her desk.
As she tried shuffling the teams of her Anbu to fit the highest odds of success, she kept coming back to one ninja in particular.
But she didn't know if he was ready.
She pulled his files and read all the comments from his overseers. Tiger can't use a katana to cut his meat, much less save his life. But his dedication, intelligence, and willingness to learn make up for his flaws.
Snake, he needs to get laid.
Just assign me a kunoichi or give me some money to hire a whore and I'll make a man out of him yet. Ibiki, his stupidity is going to get him killed. Nevertheless, he has a high pain tolerance and mental resiliency to survive torture for several days.
Yamanaka, even though the enemy will easily realize they have the nine-tailed fox in their possession,
There is no ninja in the world that will be able to extract data from his mind due to the nine-tailed fox's interference. The Hokage knew recruiting Naruto into ANBU had its shares of cons, including the knowledge that if Naruto was ever to get caught, the enemy would quickly discover the value of what they have. The Hokage was hedging all her bets that Naruto was too powerful to be captured so easily, and from her experience, Naruto was the safest bet.
With Naruto, the pros always outweighed the cons.
Those previous reports were passable, even Snake's. Usually when Snake thought a student was truly hopeless, she would have simply written, "You should just cut his dick off."
But Tsunade was more concerned with the last report by the younger Yamanaka. Butterfly, his mindscape reflects a personality of self-doubt and a host of insecurities.
It is very possible the subject has experienced some form of abuse, either mental, physical, or both. The nature of his pathways suggests his life is consumed by an obsession that is poisonous for his mental health. The subject should be put under more observation.
That was troubling. Was Naruto Uzumaki truly ready for this? The best lessons are learned through experience.
Naruto was training in his own private training room, which they were happy to grant him because nothing else had enough space for a murder of crows. With his intensive shadow clone training schedule, Naruto was determined to get a feel for the katana. The morning practice spars with Tiger was a mark of his progress and he was improving at blinding speed, or in other words, Naruto still lost every match but didn't lose as badly as before. Naruto was parrying a clone just when the tattoo on his shoulder began to burn.
He deflected the stroke and his counter landed a hit. The clone erupted in a cloud of smoke. Naruto wiped the sweat from his brow as the tattoo began to burn more intensely into his arm. As instructed, Naruto touched his forefingers to trigger the summoning jutsu. He looked up, a haze of smoke thinned around him to reveal he had been summoned into the Hokage's office. When Naruto noticed the other three ANBU bowing beside him, he knew he wasn't being summoned to fix yet another broken window. He bowed, placing his fist to the floor like the rest of his fellow agents, Owl, Squid, and Butterfly. "I have a mission for the four of you," the Hokage replied as soon as Shizen closed the doors. "We have recently destroyed a terrorist organization called Kuro no Kyakusha, but certain individuals have managed to survive its collapse, all of whom are highly dangerous. Our sources say the last remnants of this organization have scheduled a meeting in the town of Nishi in Tea Country. Your mission is to infiltrate the meeting where they will all be gathered and eliminate them once and for all. None are to escape, am I clear?"
Naruto could have sworn he felt her eyes digging into his skin.
"Owl, you will be squad leader for this mission." Owl lifted from his submissive position and walked toward the desk. The Hokage handed him a folder of files. "Konoha also has an informant in the village that has been following one of the terrorists. Contact him, exchange information, and relieve him of his duty." "Yes, Hokage-sama," Owl bowed as he received the folder.
"The file also contains the abilities of your squad mates so you can employ them as you see fit. As usual, I expect the files to be destroyed after reading."
"Yes, Hokage-sama," Owl nodded as he flipped through the papers, and then paused. His head snapped up to stare straight at Crow. Tsunade smirked, "Bet you didn't see that coming." Owl shook his head. "We will leave immediately."
He snapped the files closed and turned to his fellow ANBU members.
"Meet in supply room C."
They bowed once more to the Hokage, touched their tattoos, and disappeared from the office. Naruto found himself back in the training room, right in the middle of an epic battle between the two clone teams which had separated themselves by shirts and skins.
"All right guys, I'm leaving for a mission."
Amidst a myriad of exclamations and proclamations of "You can do it, believe it," Naruto left the clones to their own devices, knowing they would dismiss themselves after the game was over.
Living among ANBU, Naruto always felt he had to train every single moment and he would maximize on every chance he got even if it was his clones that did the training. Naruto set out for the supply rooms and met Sai in one of the various twisting corridors. "Ready?" Naruto asked.
Of course. Naruto was struck by how smoothly Sai had replied, reminding him that Sai probably did these sorts of things all the time.
Naruto envisioned a fake smile underneath the mask. The chasm of darkness was deep above them and it grew lost in the hanging roots of the ceiling. While they were walking, someone suddenly shoved Squid into the wall. "Hey, watch where you're going!" Naruto yelled after the ANBU that had shoved past. The ANBU flicked up a middle finger and continued walking.
"That is all right, Crow," Sai replied as he pushed himself from off the wall.
"It happens all the time." "All the time? Really?" Naruto asked, concerned. After the war, Danzu's route was completely disbanded, but most of the operatives were absorbed into ANBU. Many ANBU members do not trust us. Sai replied with an uncaring voice. That's not fair to you. Naruto crossed his arms, concerned that even within ANBU there was distrust enough to go around. It is quite fine. According to my book, when someone constantly teases another person, that means they secretly like them.
Squid, I don't think that what it means, Naruto said slowly and wondered what kind of book Sai was reading. Sai and Naruto entered the supply room where Butterfly and Owl waited.
After a quick debriefing and destruction of the folders, they left Konoha. Naruto had finally been given his first ANBU mission. The trees blurred beneath them as they rode Squid's giant ink bird. The sun was bright in the sky and shone over the 4 ANBU agents who were crowded around a map. All 4 of us will enter town under a henge and under different disguises to avoid suspicion. Owl began to explain his plan. We should have alibis. I will be a merchant buyer looking to invest in some of the shops around town. Butterfly, you can.
I can come up with my own disguise, thank you, Butterfly said with a sharp coldness to her voice. It surprised Naruto because she had only ever been nice to him. I can be Crow's wife, Butterfly suggested as she leaned over and clung to his arm for emphasis. Naruto was glad he was wearing a white mask because the feel of her breasts pressing against his arm caused him to blush a deep shade of red. Owl said with a sigh, you don't even know who he is. He's better than you. Naruto swore if she wasn't wearing a mask, she would have stuck her tongue out like a child. Besides, the Hokage wants me to keep an eye on him since it's his first mission and all.
That's Naruto.
Then the woman beside Naruto shrieked and Naruto cringed at the sound, threatening to shatter his brains.
You've got to be kidding me. Butterfly forcibly ripped the mask from Naruto's face. Naruto?
Ino could hardly believe it as the whiskered face and awkward grin was revealed.
All this time she had been fantasizing rather indecently about Crow, and he was simply Naruto. Wait, you know me? Naruto asked. I'm Ino, you idiot. Ino threw her hands in the air, and the dumbass over there is Shikamaru.
I believe we are not to reveal our identities. Squid sat calmly at the head of the bird, which everyone knew was Sai simply by the way he spoke. I think it is in our best interest to get this out of the way before it distracts us from our mission, Shikamaru said with a sigh. We know each other's personalities and jutsu too well for our identities to not have been discovered eventually. I'm sure the Hokage took that into account.
Naruto was suddenly very excited.
He felt a load lift from his shoulders to find out he was with friends.
Shikamaru turned to look at both Ino and Naruto. His voice was laced with a rare moment of seriousness.
We are to refer to each other by our code names at all times, even when we think no one is listening.
We are ANBU and can't afford to make simple mistakes. I know that, Ino huffed. Yeah, I got it, Naruto agreed.
Now, disguises, Shikamaru stressed. That wasn't a bad idea, Butterfly, you and Crow can be newlyweds. Shikamaru was almost too glad to dump her off on someone else.
I was only kidding, Ino whined. That's okay, Ino, I can be something else? Naruto suggested. He wasn't even sure how newlyweds were supposed to act.
With a roll of her eyes, Ino sighed, fine. Squid can be my assistant, Shikamaru suggested. That gives each of us an excuse to maintain two-man teams at all times.
We'll stay at separate inns and correspond with each other through Butterfly's mind technique. I'll meet with the informant while everyone else should focus on gathering intel.
Afterwards, we'll convene again to decide what to do at the meeting.
Are there any questions?
Under a henge that looked oddly similar to Irika except without the scar and top knot, Naruto entered the bustling village of Tea Country with Ino hanging on his arm.
Oh look! Naruto was suddenly dragged forward to a merchant's cart showcasing handmade jewelry.
These are gorgeous, Ino cooed, and Naruto didn't know if she was doing it for the act or if she really meant it. They would look very pretty on you, the merchant smiled warmly.
How about a deal?
I'll give you a sale as long as you wear it around town and let people know where you got it from.
Really? Ino asked and looked up suggestively at Naruto. Naruto blinked in confusion.
Ino shoved her shoulder into Naruto's ribcage and he almost jolted out of his henge. Naruto has always had problems with simple henges, and with Ino constantly moving against him and distracting him, his chakra control at maintaining the henge was shaky at best. Ino poked him again, pointed to his chest and then to the jewelry.
You can't be serious? Naruto asked in disbelief.
Come on, Ino said as she leaned against his shoulder, you should be proud to buy things for your wife.
Naruto grumbled and reluctantly pulled out his frog wallet. He didn't have much money left. Come on, you're going to get paid after the mission. Naruto would have jumped back, but Ino kept him in a tight hold. Calm down. It's just me. I'm not in your head, simply projecting my thoughts into it. Buy it for me. We have to look like vacationing newlyweds. Naruto's shoulders drooped as he slipped the money into the merchant's hands. Ino smiled brightly and her eyes glowed. She gave it to Naruto to put around her neck as she lifted up her hair. It took Naruto a few tries before he snapped the necklace together. What do you think? Ino asked excitedly. Ino looked like a 20-year-old civilian with brown hair that ended at her shoulders, brown eyes, and there were slight freckles on her face. You look great, Naruto finally stuttered. Of course, I do, Ino said as she grabbed his arm and dragged him to the next stall. This one was filled with different fabrics, all of which Ino examined, touched, and scrutinized before she made a purchase. Naruto watched bored and leaned against the cart. Sometimes he was quite certain he would never understand girls. The elder woman at the stall chuckled lightly. New to this? Naruto slipped his hands into his pocket. Yeah, newlyweds actually. Congratulations. You seem like you'd make a fine husband. Before Naruto knew it, a heated blush erupted across his face. Oh, thank you. The old woman chuckled and said in introduction, Kimiko Yamakura, best seamstress in town. How about you, what's your name? Something instinctive went off in Naruto's head. He was in a dark room, sitting strapped to the chair as the same question continually assaulted him until it left bruises in his psyche. He immediately, without thought replied, Crow. What the hell is wrong with you? Ino had been keeping an ear to the conversation and jerked up when she heard Naruto's answer. Crow? The old woman asked and looked behind her for the bird he had mentioned. When she found nothing and turned back around, Ino was already dragging Naruto away from the stand. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, Naruto tried to apologize. I didn't mean it just happened. What in the world possessed you to say that? Naruto said one word, Ibiki. Both ninja shuddered from the chill that name invoked, but it did not cool Ino's temper. You could have easily ruined our cover. Don't you ever think? Seriously, I don't understand why the Hokage decided it was a good idea to recruit you in ANBU. Maybe you saved the world and everything, but you have no tact at all. You are an idiot. Naruto had naturally built up resistance to insults, but these in particular had hurt, for he knew she was right. Ino had unconsciously pulled him to another shopping cart and this time, Naruto didn't hesitate to buy anything she wanted. He felt so bad for the slip-up. Remembering who he was and who he was supposed to be kept getting more confusing. By the time Naruto's wallet had emptied and the night had descended, he was dragging himself to the nearest inn. He had never been on the beck and call of a woman like that before, especially one so demanding. He was exhausted and he carried an armful of Ino's new items, all of which he had bought. At least he had sated her anger towards him as she hummed a pleasant tune, the necklace around her neck twinkling in the starlight. Ino knew she was a difficult person and she wasn't about to change. After all, she was Daddy's little girl. She was a princess. He bought her anything without complaint, he complimented her beauty, and boasted of her skills with pride. She was constantly testing and comparing all the men in her life to her father, and all were overshadowed by his stature. She had standards, and it was her father who set them so high. So, when Naruto said in exasperation, I don't have any money to pay for the inn, Ino rolled her eyes in disgust. Naruto noticed and said, tired, Ino, did you really need all this stuff? He suddenly got a shoulder to the gut. First, obviously she needed everything or she wouldn't have gotten it. Second, could Naruto truly be that daft? Ino? Who's that dear? Did you see somebody you knew? Ino asked. Oh, Naruto felt as if he couldn't get anything right. No, it was the sneeze, Naruto covered. With a shake of her head, Ino dragged Naruto to the most expensive inn. But, I don't, Naruto stuttered as they entered through the door. Ino smiled brightly at the attendant. Naruto worried how he was ever going to pay for this as Ino chatted excitedly about marriage life. Oh dear, your hand is so hot, are you sure you don't have a fever? Ino asked the attendant. Let me check. Ino bent forward and placed a hand on the attendant's forehead. Behind Ino's back she had one hand in the form of a seal. The attendant's eyes drooped and her expression suddenly died, until Ino pulled her hand back. In a blink of an eye the attendant regained her smile and chirper demeanor. That would be the deluxe bedroom? I'll call someone to escort you. I hope you enjoy your stay.
The attendant wrote down the name of the customers and how much they had paid. Someone soon came to escort them to their rooms.
Naruto could only stare at Ino's effortless skill as a kunoichi.
The war hero suddenly felt a chill of fear as he followed behind the demanding blonde. The moment they entered the room, Ino went straight for the bathroom and slammed the door closed.
Naruto dipped his shoulders with a sigh.
Well, his first mission could have been worse.
He looked around the large room.
It had a balcony, a small library, a fireplace and a couch. But for all of the excess the room had only one bed.
Naruto blushed and pulled some blankets from the closet and dropped them on the couch. Ino! Naruto called. I've really got to go pee. Yeah, I'll be out soon.
Ino rolled her eyes as she stepped out of the shower. She brushed her hair, put on a second set of ninja clothes from a scroll she carried, and blew herself a kiss in the mirror before replacing her mask. She took her time, so much so when she finally came out Naruto was peeing over the balcony.
Ino screeched.
It's not my fault. Naruto jumped and quickly pulled his pants up when he was finished.
You were taking too long. Who in their right mind pee over a balcony? Do you know how many people could have seen you? It was dark.
Ino threw her hands up in exasperation, but before she could stomp to the bedroom she felt Shikamaru trying to contact her.
Hold on, message from Shikamaru. Ino? I'm listening. I met with the informant. He's given us the information and details regarding the terrorist he has been following. Tomorrow your team will extract information from the target about the meeting, understand? Ino didn't answer. Ino, do you love her? Ino, this is seriously not the time.
I mean, you can't even spend much time with her.
She's from a completely different village. It's never going to work.
Shikamaru took a moment to reply, neither will us. Ino frowned bitterly as she sat down on the deluxe bed. She looked up as Naruto exited the bathroom dressed for bed, wearing only some night pants. An eyebrow rose as she scanned his abs and the defining features of his body.
She completely forgot what she was going to say.
Naruto shook out his dripping blonde hair. Some of the water splashed on Ino and she was jerked from her ogling.
Stop that! Ino yelled and then remember what she was going to say before. And where in the hell is your mask?
Oh, I didn't think, since you know who I am and everything, Naruto mumbled and knew he had done something wrong again. He was at least smart enough to cover his ears this time.
You idiot!
You are always supposed to wear your mask in a mission unless you're under henge.
But we're going to sleep, Naruto responded confused. Didn't you read the handbook at all? Ino questioned.
Naruto did, even memorized it, but the moment after the initiation ceremony when he didn't need it anymore, he forgot it all.
A henge must be maintained with constant chakra.
You can't do that while you're sleeping, so logically you're supposed to sleep with your mask on during a mission.
Besides, what if someone attacks and catches us unawares?
We need to be battle ready at all times.
And are you seriously going to sleep in your pajamas? Naruto scratched the back of his head. That's what pajamas are for. Ino had no idea how Sakura did it for so long.
With a frustrated groan she laid back in bed, allowing herself to drown in the peace of its comfort.
When she heard noise, she poked her eye open. What are you doing?
Setting traps and seals on all the doors and windows, Naruto said as he slid the balcony door closed. Finally, Ino was impressed by his safety precautions.
She had been about to get up and do the same thing.
Then she noticed Naruto placing an overload of traps.
Why so many? You never know when Snake will invade your room. Ino blinked.
She's all the way in Konoha. I wouldn't put it past her, Naruto grumbled, and after he was satisfied his defenses could keep Snake out long enough for him to wake up and defend himself, he re-entered the bathroom. He came out with his mask back on but still in just his boxers.
Ino sighed.
She would never understand him. Hey Ino, a butterfly, I mean Keiko. Naruto scratched his head. Good night, he said defeated.
Naruto wait, Ino sat up. Your mindscape, has it always been that dark? Naruto leaned against the frame of the entrance.
In a soft whisper he admitted, since I was little. Those paths I was telling you about, the ones that always go to the same place, they all lead to the demon fox.
Ino shivered. Paths like yours reflect an obsession. It suggests your life is consumed by the Kyuubi. Naruto frowned. The pale moon lit the room.
The two ninjas stared at each other in breathless thought.
A shrug. I guess it is.
Naruto watched from the rooftops as Ino drew her target in with a mere glance. They walked the streets as Ino laughed at the target's jokes and flirted with him shamelessly under a different henge she wore before. This henge wore long black hair with sparkling blue eyes, but the most significant change was her bust size that threatened to spill from her dress every time she leaned over. Naruto bristled, uncomfortable when the target placed a hand on Ino's butt. She allowed it and whispered suggestively into his ear.
They deviated into the alleyway. Naruto didn't waste time to jump down behind the target and hit him unconscious. There was even a feeling of satisfaction to it.
Thank Kami, Ino sighed in relief as the man slumped against the wall. He was disgusting.
He touched you, Naruto complained like a child.
Ino looked up with a smirk on her lips, but we win in the end.
Ino hardly thought about one squeeze to the butt cheek anymore, not when she's done so much more in the pursuit of information. Watch the opening.
This might take a while if he has any mental defenses, Ino informed as she set up her jutsu and dived into the target's head. Naruto lazily lounged around the entrance of the alleyway, blocking the view from what was happening behind him from the passing civilians.
Naruto frowned. He didn't like how Ino was so nonchalant about being violated. I've got the information, Ino said after she emerged from the target's mind.
She created a false reality and planted it into the target's head to explain why the target was passed out in an alleyway. Ino changed her henge back to the newlywed wife. She quickly ran a hand through Naruto's hair to mess it up a little, pulled his shirt out of his pants and tugged on it to where it hung sloppily from his shoulders. The two newlyweds left the alley, drawing no more suspicion than they were having a little honeymoon fun. The four Anbu agents met outside of the village in the darkness of the night to discuss the second phase of their plan. There will be 7 terrorists in total arriving to the meeting. Some are rogue ninjas and other are radical civilians who might have ninja bodyguards with them.
Ino explained.
The meeting will be at the inn Naruto and I are staying at.
It'll be 2 days from now at 9 o'clock at night.
Good job, Butterfly, Shikamaru said. His hands were shaped in his signature thinking pose.
We need to neutralize the ninjas first. If one of the civilians manages to get away, we can easily recapture him. It's the ninjas who will be a bigger threat. How about we rig the room beforehand? Ino suggested, paper bombs maybe?
No, civilians working in the inn might get hurt in the crossfire.
Owls hooted in the forest that surrounded them.
Sai, Naruto, and Ino waited with confident patience that Shikamaru will come up with a plan.
Shikamaru opened his eyes. I've got an idea.
Sorry, Ino apologized as she tucked the unconscious and tied-up attendant into a closet.
She hinged into the exact replica and cheerily returned to the front. She greeted the unwary terrorists as they entered the inn.
Ino made the hand seals behind her back and searched for Shikamaru's mind. They're all here. Shikamaru was sitting in the attic of the inn, directly above the gathering.
7 men and 4 extra ninja in total. Are there any censors?
Not that I could tell, Ino responded. Sai waited on the outside of the inn, chakra pinning his legs and feet to the wall as he pressed himself beside the window. The night concealed him from the civilians walking the streets, blissfully unaware.
Naruto sat in a room below, meditating in sage mode. It allowed him to keep track of the chakra signatures moving above him and those of his comrades. Why have you called us all here, Danto? Do you know how dangerous this is?
I know for a fact they are still hunting for me.
The shadows of the lit candles flickered in the room.
I had to, Danto answered. There's a patron who has showed interest in funding our group.
We can rebuild again. Is it worth it to rebuild again? Another man responded, no matter what we do, nothing will keep the ninjas out of the daimyo's ass. The ninjas are too powerful. If they didn't have so much political power, the civilians could have more control over the course of politics. It's the ninjas' fault we have so much war. We owe it to our families to keep going. I vote for receiving a patron.
The men in the room argued heatedly over harsh whispers. Naruto did not like the conversation at all, and it stirred doubts about the whole system of ninja.
Was the fact ninjas existed the cause of war? Or would there be war regardless, even without ninja?
Those were questions Naruto had never asked himself. His concentration wavered, but he had to keep focus on the task at hand. He focused on the swirl of their chakra flowing through their bodies, on their heartbeat, and on their breathing, anything to drown out the words and the doubts.
Then a knock came to the door. The men went silent. The ninjas stood on edge. Danto got up to open the door, only to reveal one of the inn's servants with a tray of tea. Tea? The woman asked, but the men weren't looking at the tea.
They stared at the way the kimono shaped around the woman's curves and the suggestiveness of her cleavage.
Oh yeah, sure, Danto nodded.
His gaze followed her inside. Ino slipped in with bowed head and quickly served the tea with nervousness, as befit a woman surrounded by so many men. The ninja bodyguards gave her a hard stare, but the civilian men had eyes that were eager to touch. Ino left the room, and as the door closed, her heartbeat calmed.
She was glad that was over.
She walked down the stairs and entered the room where Naruto sat.
She waited for 10 minutes until Naruto opened his eyes, orange streaks surrounding his irises. The tea has begun to affect their chakra networks.
There are 3 who didn't drink. The one closest to the door, the 2 in the right corner of the room.
Ino nodded and relayed the message to Shikamaru. Those 3 would be the first die. Owl says to set off the signal. Naruto nodded as he stood and breathed deeply. Hey Butterfly, have you ever killed someone?
Of course. You have to before you get into Anbu, Ino said impatiently, a little concerned by the sudden question.
I didn't.
Naruto thrust both hands to the ceiling and summoned his wind element, which leaked into the small cracks above. The sudden draft swept through the room and blew out all the candles.
The meeting room was descended in total darkness.
Inkblots disguised into the artwork of the partition and wall panels came to life, dripping from the serene cherry blossom trees and pagodas. Then the very shadows came to life, erupting from the floor and swallowing everything in its path.
The first 3 targets were dead instantly. When the other ninja tried to perform jutsu, they found their chakra networks uncooperative.
They were all such easy targets. Screams filled the air but bent and wavered in the silence jutsu surrounding the room.
Naruto stared upwards.
The screams impaled his senses. Blood stained and spread along the ceiling. Naruto was thankful for the sudden crash from above. He didn't know if he could take much more of this. One of the hired ninja had managed to crash through the wall and went running. Naruto created a clone to leave behind and gave chase.
Ino immediately followed. Naruto surrounded himself in his demonic cloak and easily caught up to the last survivor.
The ninja had fallen to his knees with his hands up in surrender.
His kunai was dropped on the street. His eyes were feverish after witnessing the death of his comrades in seconds.
Naruto stopped in indecision and watched the unarmed ninja trembling before him.
Kill him. Naruto had always instinctively resisted the demon fox's wants. Even entertaining the idea was as if he was giving in to the fox's demands.
It was the hardest thing Naruto's ever done, as it was going against everything he believed in.
Our mission parameters are to leave no survivors. Ino reminded insistently in his head. Kill. In the span of Naruto's hesitation, the ninja's hand shot towards his holster. Naruto didn't hesitate. Blood splattered on Naruto's cheek as he stared at the kunai embedded in the fragile softness of the ninja's neck.
Blood began to spread through the clothing. The stench of it invaded Naruto's sense of smell. His sight was filled with crimson.
Something had broken.
The Kyuubi slipped and wheedled his influence through the cracks and spread like poison, preying on the doubts and insecurities.
Naruto pulled the kunai out and plunged the steel back into soft flesh. A drop of blood fell on his lips. A constant squelch echoed in his ears and the kunai stabbed again and again, carving flesh. Naruto? Naruto whipped his head around at the sound of a quickening heartbeat.
His eyes were a gleaming red.
More. Kill more. Take more.
We should go help Owl and Squid clean up, Ino said hastily and scooted back, trying to get far away from the growing killing intent. She suddenly found herself slammed against a wall. Naruto's body was flushed against hers. The smell of blood triggered something deep inside of Naruto, an animalistic urge locked in a cage for so many years, a part of him, as physical as the whisker marks born on his cheeks. He reacted to the bloodlust.
He bent forward and licked the fear from Ino's neck.
The taste caused his body to shiver and his heart-on shoved into her thigh. Naruto breathed heavily as he tasted her skin.
He was going to take her, then he was going to kill her, and then he was going to eat her.
A kunai plunged into his gut.
Naruto. Ino demanded as she slapped his face.
Naruto blinked in confusion as the flicker of red left his eyes, the bloodlust slowly overtaken by reason.
Oh, Ino, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Naruto sobbed and the tears hid behind a crow's mask. It hadn't been just a dream the Kyuubi haunted him with or a genjutsu that the Kyuubi interfered with. This was real. The taste of blood was real. The need to kill was real. We need to check on Owl and Squid, Ino prompted, anxious to no longer be alone with Naruto. She had seen how Naruto savagely tore that man apart with a kunai. They were ninjas, not butchers. The walk back to the inn was the silence of a dead ninja. Naruto hung his head as Ino furtively stole nervous glances in his direction. Softly, she whispered, "Was this your very first kill?" "No," Naruto murmured. "A man named Yura, but, at the time, all that mattered was saving Gaara." Naruto stared at his shaking blood-drenched hands. This time had been different than the first. When they arrived, Shikamaru was storing the corpses in a scroll to be brought back to the village. Sai was posted by the stairs to make sure no one came up before they were finished cleaning. Naruto felt sick as he walked into the room. Dead men lay sprawled on the ground, blank eyes staring aimlessly at the ceiling. Some lay with their mouth open as if crying out for air, and angry red streaks suffocated their throats. Others had their faces and bodies mangled, as if a horde of rats had chewed their skin right off. Then the clone he had left behind while he left in pursuit dissipated and the screams of terror invaded his mind, giving the entire scene a soundtrack of absolute horror. Then there was the blood. Naruto backed out of the room and heaved vomit onto the floor of the hallway. He was respectfully ignored by his teammates. Shikamaru knew it wasn't easy, especially for your first mission. It takes time for everyone to adjust. What they didn't realize was that Naruto was heaving up his insides for entirely different reasons. When he had walked into that room, his head mouth watered. He longed to lick the blood from the floor, longed to taste the flesh of raw meat. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfiction. Looking forward to having you on board again.